Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another interview on Unmasked and Openhearted. I'm very excited for our guest today. Vincent Van Patten, also known as Vinny, is with me here, and Vinny is actually in Japan right now. I am in San Diego. He's in Japan as we record this on Zoom, and as always, I'm going to read his bio, his human design and astrology information out loud, and then we'll dive into a conversation. Vincent Van Patten is an author, travel photographer, and co-host of the Dare to Dream podcast. Most importantly, Vincent is an inspired citizen of our ever-changing world. He fosters a profound passion for travel, history, spirituality, personal growth, and authentic human connection. Vincent's heart yearns to explore the natural world, the cities, towns, and everything else which we call home. He writes about it all through poetry, short stories, and books. His first nonfiction novel, Arrows of Youth, a young man's inspiring journey to find what lights his soul on fire, is part memoir, part travel story, and is quite the moving narrative of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. Vincent is currently living in Osaka, Japan, where he is teaching English and writing his second book about his recent European travel journey. Human design-wise, Vinny is a 6'2" manifesting generator with emotional authority. And astrologically, his sun sign is in Virgo, his moon sign is in Capricorn, and his rising sign is also Capricorn, which, Vinny, I know you don't know much about this, but
I'm
that's
excited to learn. Yeah,
that's triple Earth. So you've got a lot of Earth energy, which makes sense for why you love being out in nature and travel. And yeah, really cool.
wow, triple Earth.
Triple Earth.
I don't know what that means, but I'm excited to learn.
Yeah, it's cool. It's because you can be either astrologically, every single sign is either water, fire, earth, or air. I would be double air water. You're triple earth. So just a lot of earth energy, a lot of ambitious energy, a lot of grounded energy, probably connected to your body, again, connected to the earth, connected to kind of being in your physical body, supporting people, all that good stuff.
Sweet. Have you ever seen the show Avatar, The Last Airbender?
I
Have you ever
haven't.
heard of it?
Yes, I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
Okay. Got into it like a couple of years ago. Just rewatched it again. Kind of a kid's show, but much better as an adult, as these things usually are. And I was thinking about like which element I am. It's kind of a fun thing. And definitely told that I was earthbender and kind of gravitate towards that. So it does make sense.
Oh, very cool.
Oh,
Showing
yeah.
up in other ways too.
There we go.
Oh, well, I'm excited. I was telling you earlier, I'm really excited to have you on because I got connected to you through Greg, who is in my Toastmasters group. And then I just intuitively wanted to have you on the podcast. I read your book. I've been reading some of your poetry and writing. You're very, very talented, and you just do a lot of really awesome things in the world as far as traveling, writing, photography. You have really amazing relationships. So let's talk about all of it. And I'd love to start with just, I guess you're in Japan right now. So do you want to just share with people what brought you to Japan specifically? Because it's a very unique place to be living. You're living there for a year, right?
At least, yes, that's for starters. But thank you for saying that. Honestly, yeah, it's overwhelming. Don't know how exactly to respond, but thank you. I really do appreciate it a lot. And yeah, so I'm here in Japan teaching English. And yeah, before the pandemic, kind of just realized that. So I came here in 2019 with a group of my friends. Greg was one of them, and was here for a month. Just started in Tokyo, went to this like lake, kind of ancient village called Hakone, which has like, it's part of this just kind of get into the whole story here, but it's part of this pilgrimage from like old Tokyo to Kyoto, which was like the imperial city. And we like hiked through just this awesome, it's called the Old Tokaido Road. It was just hilarious. But went from there then to Osaka, which is where I am now, Kyoto, and then this island called Shikoku. And I was at that point, I was kind of, it was 2019. I graduated from college in 2017 and just had different jobs, like worked in real estate, worked in interior design, worked in a clothing store, just doing different stuff. And I studied journalism, but I didn't like really connect with journalism while I was in school. I just knew I did not like news reporting. And I actually got in, like I studied it thinking I was going to get in broadcasting, but I realized I did not want to do that. And then, so I went down the writing track, realized that I hated news reporting, just like did not like the interviews and the things that I like had to do. And so I was a bit, just lost after college, didn't know what steps to take, and started writing poetry, started like just writing about traveling when I would go on these trips that were just life-changing. Like I remember in Berlin, I was just like walking in like a cold, crisp afternoon, and just like I wanted to live in Europe so bad. Like I wanted to live in another country. Like, dang, like how am I going to do this? And to another trip, Japan, 2019. And like I'm just itching to make a change, and just still had no idea that it was going to be like writing or really anything, but I was kind of gravitating toward just like design. And I've always loved just like the way things look, aesthetics, and like magazine design. And I was in contact with this kind of long story, bringing it all together here, but in contact with this guy here in Japan who runs like an online magazine. And I remember just being on like a train in Tokyo, just like cold, rainy day, like late December. And just like, I want to live in Japan. Like it's much different than, any like Western culture, obviously. And that's what I wanted. Like I knew I wanted to live, but I still kind of do want to live in Europe because I just love like European culture. But I'm like, I really want to do something that's like just very different. Like I'll be totally out of my comfort zone. That'd be like a real, like a, life-changing experience. Just far different than anything I've ever known. And like Japan is just insane. Like I've kind of been really fascinated by it since I was a kid. Just loved like anime show, like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. You have this, I went to the Pokemon
Oh my gosh.
store the other week, and I got this Gengar. Anyways, like Japan is it. Like it's, like modern enough and just kind of, I don't know, it has this crazy dichotomy of like ancient history and just modern world that kind of clashes, and there's like so much beauty in it, and it's just so interesting.
Mm.
And I realized I'm like, if I'm, this is kind of the time if I'm gonna like make a serious change. And I still didn't really know that I wanted to like be a writer yet, but I'm like, I want to at least live in another country. And so I reached out to the magazine guy, who also, we were kind of following his ramen guide here in Japan. We're taking very seriously. And he said like he doesn't really have anything that he could like, pay me for at the moment, but just like, keep on searching pretty much. And that was like, even me just like reaching out to him was like a big step. Like it was, I was reaching out to like a professional, and this German guy who had, just reaching out of the blue, and who's extremely supportive. And I'm like, all right, like I know there's something in that. So that was 2 months before COVID hit. And so that happened. I was like, but then I at least knew that I wanted to live in Japan. Long story short, more or less, I waited for 3 years to make it here. But like in the meantime, I went on the Arrows of Youth road trip and wrote that book, and pursued creative writing. Yes, I think it's start from there.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, I appreciate you just sharing, even taking that one step of reaching out to someone, seeing if it's going to work out, and then also just trusting. Something that I have to learn a lot about in my life is the whole concept of divine timing and letting things work out in the timing they're meant to work out. But then you just sticking to it, what that was 3 years ago that you first reached out and you knew you wanted to live in Japan, live in a different culture, and then ride through the pandemic. I also definitely want to talk about the road trip that you took during the pandemic, because that was a really great use of your time, I think, during the pandemic, and also in between being able to go overseas, still staying in the United States, but then also just allowing the space and time and then circling back. And for you, during those 3 years, just out of curiosity, did you still have Japan lingering in the back of your mind, or did you let it go at some point? Were you always like, okay, it's going to happen at some point? Like, what did that look like? Because I know a lot of people, maybe they have a dream. For me, for example, and a reason why I want to talk to you and why I'm inspired by you is a dream of mine is to write a book. And I've had this one for 3 to 4 years now. It's
Yeah.
been just like tapping on every single body part of mine telling me to do it. And now I'm finally actually making it happen. But I think a lot of people have dreams like that, where it's like, it's there, and then maybe it doesn't quite work out, or the pandemic happens, or something happens to shift their lives. And then maybe it's still kind of brewing in them. So I just love to talk about that. Like, was it still kind of lingering there, or did you put it aside? What was those 3 years until you got here looked like for you?
Yeah, for sure. It was, yeah, I never let it go. So I pretty much reached out to this company that I work for now, ECC, and was just like in cahoots with them for over the 3 years, just pretty much waiting for the world. At the beginning, we thought it was going to be like 1 year, that is another year. And then Japan was the last like democratic country to open its borders. So it was like, even when the world was back to normal, like in the last year, still just kind of waiting. But yeah, so realized that this was, and yeah, I mean, I definitely, it has always been like Japan or bust, more or less. Like I knew, just like I don't know, feel a strong connection to coming here. And but like it definitely wasn't like gonna let it hold me back from doing other stuff. So like I had it in my mind, and like you said, like divine timing, like it's gonna happen when it's meant to. Like I'm not gonna force it. But yeah, so I pursued my master's in creative writing during that time, just online, which was a great, for just me personally, like a good use of time just to get better at like creative writing and read a lot of things that I wouldn't be reading. And yeah, it was the first time that like I genuinely just was interested in school, and like felt like I could actually use what I just like, not even what I learned, but like what like just use me like in the writing, and like I could actually say something that was valuable maybe like for the class. And I was just learning a lot from communicating with other writers and getting better at just, giving feedback, which is big, and taking it as well. And so um that was kind of the first step I took. Like pandemic hit, I'm like, okay, I guess things are not going to happen for a while. So like, what can we do with this time? And so that kind of gave me a great kind of grounding thing to work at like every week. And it was like a 1.5 year program, so it wasn't like overwhelming, but definitely kept me busy. Then realized too, I'm like, I want to be, so then it was kind of setting in. I was like, I want to be a travel writer. Me and Greg both. So I left my job in real estate. I was working for 2 years as a real estate agent with another one of my best friends in Los Angeles. And I just knew like it was a great experience, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And I'm like, why am I, trying to kind of set up a foundation in real estate, which is like really hard, and you have to put in a lot of groundwork if I know this isn't what I want to do. At this point, I'm like, yeah, I want to be a writer. Like I love traveling so much. Like, how can I make that happen? And so it was like the ultimate test. Like, okay, here's COVID. You're not going to travel for 3 years. How are you going to be a travel writer? Like, I don't even know where to begin, but kind of realized that like a road trip was something I could do. And it was getting the idea to write a book in some sense as well. And it kind of came together to like this road trip, also just kind of taking the temperature of the time and like just kind of seeing how is the world right now? Like, how is, the Pacific Northwest dealing with COVID, and how are people feeling? And like, just in such a time of separation, and, people are so cooped up in their houses. Like, I just had to get out into nature and just kind of embrace that. And it all came together in that way.
Amazing. So now you're in Japan, you're teaching English. And so going into writing Arrows of Youth, so when you set off on that road trip, you just mentioned, did you know I'm going to write a book? Or was it more, I'm going to maybe write about this journey? What'd that look like?
That is a great question. I should probably look back at like my notes and stuff, because I don't remember if it was exact. I'm sure it wasn't like black and white, like, this is it, I'm writing a book about this trip. It was like, definitely want to get some serious inspiration out there, and like I'm feeling something. So like, I'm just gonna get out there and kind of see what happens. But I mean, I was writing, pretty much just the entire time about the trip, and just reading really inspirational stuff, and which is like all part of the book, and podcasts. And I mean, I definitely think it was part of the plan. Like, this is gonna be, I'm gonna write something big about this, just like, my first kind of major project. And yeah, it kind of, something else took over, and it blew me away.
Yeah. And when you're traveling, are you journaling? How are you documenting everything?
In general, or just on that trip?
I guess both, that trip and in general.
On my computer mostly, but yeah, definitely, like, I just take my journal out when I'm like, on a hike or just in nature. But what I learned, like, so what I'm like, while I was in Europe this past summer, I was working at a hostel, and then so I was working at a hostel in Lisbon for 2 months, Lisbon, Portugal, and then worked on a farm in Calabria, Italy for 3 weeks after that. That's kind of what this second book is about. And so that whole time I was pretty much taking notes like every day of like everything that happened, interesting conversations, everything. And then like a lot of the stories that I wrote throughout that time, which I published on like Medium, just came from that journaling. And I mean, so now I'm writing this book with like just taking from all of that. And like, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have, I just have memory. And like, it's, you can't make up the stuff that happens in real life. It's so much funnier and so much more interesting. And so that's what I'm doing here in Japan too, is like, that's, that is the plan down the line, is kind of just to keep this thing going. So I'm kind of balancing writing about the Europe trip, like with the notes that I had and the stories that I did and stuff. And then also keeping up with like journaling and writing stories about Japan, because like, obviously I'm here and inspired and excited. So I want to write about Japan too. So learning how to balance both was definitely a big thing in the beginning, but I think I've gotten into a good groove now.
Yeah, amazing. So you're doing journal notes and then also keeping tab on your computer.
Yeah, so like when I have like an idea or something, I usually write on my computer, just like have like a running document that I kind of make to look like, I make it fun. Like I, have my certain fonts, and it's like it's like a book coming together pretty much. But I'd say if you want to get into journaling, especially like on your computer and stuff, like make it like a cool diary that like you want to engage with, and like it's always there, just like you could always just pour into it. And so I definitely do both though. Like when I want to like get away from technology and stuff, just bring my journal out. Just like call them just field notes, just writing out there. That's what I did working on the farm. I just left like every day, just went out with my journal, and just pretty much like, mowing hay for 20 minutes, and just like write a couple of notes of just like something I thought of. That, sure, we'll get into that, but that was like the coolest part of that was just how like manual labor and just being out in like the sun and stuff all day just like gave me so many ideas, because you just think, you don't really have much time to just do nothing but think. So, but
Yeah. So for you in writing, there's about 1,000,001 questions that are going through my mind, but
I'm throwing a lot at you. So.
no, it's good. It's good. But I want to just ask about writing. So for people who are listening who maybe, because for me personally, I've always had journals since I was a little girl. I've always had diaries and journals and just written. A lot of for me is like about my feelings and just
Mhm,
different things that are happening. But then I'll write just kind of scripty poetry, and writing for me, it's very, very therapeutic. It helps me with my emotions, helps me process things. And then, since being an entrepreneur, it's okay, writing to someone, marketing things. But for me, what feels most authentic is, oh, something came through and I just want to express myself. And then hopefully this message lands for someone and inspires someone, whether it's about my life or something that came through to me or whatever it is. And so
mhm,
I've just found a lot of, I guess, like a therapeutic energy in writing and a way for me to move all of the energy that's in my mind and in my body.
mhm,
And for anyone else, I guess, listening, because I know we all have different styles of writing and different ways we write. I loved how you structured Arrows of Youth, in that in each chapter, you wrote about that leg of your journey, right? Whether you were at home or on the journey, these different places you were at. And it was so descriptive, the details you can remember. And I'm curious if you like wrote down these details and that's how you remember them or what, because I'm like, how does he remember what shirt this person was wearing at the gas station? But you have like very detailed memory, right? And then you would go into, yeah, maybe something you're listening to or a podcast, and then more conceptual lessons you're learning, the soul wisdom, the spiritual wisdom, the perspectives. And then you had a poem in between each of those chapters, which I loved as well. So it was very creative and I loved that style. And kind of circling back to the question, I feel like there's two questions I want to ask you. One is, how have you developed your own authentic style of writing? And I know for you, there's many layers to it, because you write poetry, you write about history, and you write factual information, but then you also write about your own perspectives on things. So you write in a
mhm.
number of different ways. I know you took a creative writing course, but for anyone who maybe they want to get into writing, or they're trying to find their own voice in writing, like what's that process looked like for you?
Yeah, thank you for saying that, and that's awesome to hear, but, um, I'd say that the biggest thing that I've learned is, like, just like you're saying, like, it is more important than anything just to get what is in you out. Like,
Mm,
so many of us are afraid to start something or to write or to journal because we think, like, it has to be perfect, it has to sound a certain way. It like, we are our own worst critics,
mm,
um, and yeah, we're kind of afraid to even like sometimes me, like I catch myself like I don't want to, write something in my journal because it's like maybe it's not something that I like about myself.
mm,
So I'm like, don't want to be completely honest, even in this, like, will somebody like I'm afraid almost that somebody's gonna see my journal, which like should be just a place to completely just like vomit on the page. So definitely if there's any like something holding you back, like this has to be perfect or look a certain way, that is just it's not what it's for. Like so with journaling too, like when I want to just like you're saying, just like get whatever's in me just out. Like I like to do just like freehand, just kind of just write it and like just do whatever you're thinking, just let it out. Like or try not to think and just like write whatever is coming out of you. And because when you start thinking about how things sound, you get in your own head about it. But as far as just like my style, yeah, what I have learned is just like there is no right way, especially with
mm,
writing. Like over the years, just kind of being interested, I've learned, it's pretty much how things sound when said is like the most correct way for the most part.
mm.
Obviously, there are, little tips and stuff, but if like it sounds good, it probably is the right way. And then just over the years, kind of have checked how things are supposed to be. But um, yeah, it's really just like what has felt kind of like me. Like I love, like I was saying, just love like aesthetics and styles of like the style of things. And why I love travel writing is just kind of expressing like the essence of a place, like just kind of studying the culture and the history of it and how it all kind of comes together, the style of the people, just the vibe, and just trying to bring that out through my writing. And like that is just exploring, that is a lot of fun, and not putting too much like, it has to be a certain structure or anything, but just really just letting your imagination run with it. And if it sounds reasonable when spoken, it's probably all right. And you could always change things, but allowing ourselves to just like have fun with writing. There are no rules. And that was like big thing with like writing Heirs of Youth, and what I'm just learning now. It's just like there are no rules. It can be anything you want.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And what about poetry? Because that's something like how do you write poetry? That might be a huge question, but and you said there's no rules, so that helps a lot, right? Because I can get in my head all the time of like, well, comparing my stuff to somebody else's, or is this even poetry, Shannon? What is this? It doesn't rhyme. Because I would say I probably do write poetic words a lot. Like it's just this kind of scripty thing that comes through. And when I am kind of in it, I'm not thinking similar to what you said. It's just like it just flows out and it feels good and it expresses what I wanted to in that moment. But I don't understand the rhyming aspect of poetry. Like I've never really been able to click that in my mind. It seems like you do a lot of rhyming in your poetry. Like what's writing poetry like versus something else? And is there a skill set to that? What would you say to someone maybe like me who has stories that they can't write poetry? Would you say the same thing? Like there's no rules, just go for it. I think it's a little
Yes.
different with poetry.
Um, Great point. So one of the best, like most impactful advice I got just like in this creative writing course was like try to not rhyme. And because
Oh,
like all my poems were like, yeah, that's rhyming. That's what poetry is. You're supposed to rhyme. And he's like, I think like your poetry would be much more impactful if it didn't rhyme. And
mm,
like, wow, like I'd never thought about that. Cause like a lot of times you're thinking of words just because they rhyme.
ah,
And I'm like, so poetry is interesting. It's hard to describe. Like what is it even? I think it's a beauty, I guess, that's just not on the surface. Like it can, with my like kind of prose style writing, which is just like structure, and you're basically like you're speaking. I like to kind of blend more of like the kind of poetry style of kind of imagery, and just kind of like, it's not really what's on the surface, but also bringing you, the reader, like down to earth as well.
mm,
Get a little bit of a mix there, just like to make you kind of think like big picture, then also like, okay, this is actually like reality.
mm,
Um, Poetry doesn't really, it's like it doesn't need to have that reality kind of aspect. Like it could just be totally under the surface. I mean, obviously, it's just my take. Poetry, I think, can really be anything.
mm,
Um, but this is like how I like to write it. It's like it's just the entire thing could be a metaphor for something else. Like it could just not make any sense. It could just be jumble of words together, but like it's something that came out of you. And
mm,
um yeah, I usually write my poetry just, I don't know, in times where I'm feeling like, maybe like early in the morning when it's like still dark out and like the world feels kind of strange and not like reality yet. But I get in like this different imaginative headspace. Um, yeah, I don't know. There really is no rhyme or reason per se, but it could be anything. Yeah. I mean, I
mm,
definitely did learn though, like in those courses, just there are different styles and things
mhm,
that if you are interested to study. And like it got me, like before I took that, I was writing just kind of, I don't want to say basic, but like more just, my own style of like, and then it's supposed to rhyme in a certain way. And then when I actually like had to write in a certain style, it got me out of my own comfort zone,
mm,
and just writing like in a specific style of poetry, which is really cool. And there are obviously definitely different styles, slam poetry and like
mm.
quartets like Shakespearean and such. So if you're interested in that, I definitely recommend like learning different styles and then maybe like challenging yourself to write a poem, maybe with the same idea in like
Mhm.
a couple different ways.
Hmm. I like that. That's great advice. I'm taking a creative writing. Well, it's not creative writing. I don't know what it is. It's basically a course a woman designed. It starts in January, where she's helping us publish our writing to different publications and journals and online magazines and whatnot.
Hmm.
And it's kind of similar to what you just shared. What she does is she has these different, I don't know, online magazines or publications or whatnot, and she studies the types of articles that they most accept. And then she's going to kind of challenge us to write with these specifics in mind, because it
Mm.
might increase your chances of getting published by them. This is very different to how my brain actually works. So we'll see how it goes. But it will be challenging and stretching my brain, similar to what you just shared. It's like, okay, why not just try it? Because if you hate it or it doesn't feel authentic to you, you can
Hmm.
always go back to what feels more authentic to you. Maybe people, some poets or people like rhyming, whereas some rhyming's not your thing. But I think it is
Hmm.
important to try out different things and kind of find your groove and find your fit, because you can always steer yourself back on course. And at the end of the day, we know what feels most authentic.
Hmm. Right, for sure. Writing is something that it's why I keep doing it. It is for nobody but you. And like when you realize
Mm.
that when you write for you, like this is something that I am grappling with, or you realize that that's what actually connects with other people.
Mm.
I mean, under the surface, yeah, we're all going through something, and it is like our struggles that we seldom kind of share that really do connect. And so if you are like,
Mhm.
you know, worried about pleasing certain group of people or like with the story online, then it's like it just that shines through instead of like this is what I'm dealing with, and then you realize that
Mm.
that is what kind of emanates, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you ever write out of curiosity when you're in more kind of darker emotions or feeling like deeper type of thing? Or, you know what I mean?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, so I've been my I kind of wrote about it in As a Youth, but just dealing with kind of back pain for the last
Hmm.
several years, or yeah, last decade. That's really just been a great mystery,
Mm.
and that definitely keeps me just searching for answers. And I think it partially has, or in a big way, has made me a much better writer because I have empathy for other people who are going through stuff, and like um yeah, definitely like that's usually when I just need to like longhand, like by hand, just get out emotions and just write it on the page. And um yeah, I don't like focusing on it that much, but like
Hmm.
I Love You Body is kind of comes from that just relationship
Mm.
with just dealing with that. Um yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to, even in those darker kind of stuff, I do like to like not put a positive twist just for the sake of doing it, but like,
Hmm.
show that there is hope no matter what we're
Yeah.
going through.
Yeah, absolutely. I just ask because something I've found, because maybe not everyone, but I'm always experimenting with myself and like, okay, what works, what doesn't work, especially when it comes to just taking care of myself, loving myself, my inner critic, my emotions, all sorts of things. Just finding different tools and techniques that actually work, because this human experience is like crazy sometimes.
A little bit,
And
a little bit.
yeah, yeah. And I do want you to read that I Love You Body too. So that was a good segue. And we'll have you read that in a moment. But just to share, it's something that I have found really works for me. And it's interesting because I use music a lot when I'm feeling sad or just in a funk or in a low, or there's some emotional pain coming up for whatever reason. I typically was turning to music, and I would just go on walks and I listen to music, or I just play music and I just sit, whatever it is, or I feel the emotion. But lately, something I've been playing around with is actually using that time to write. And it's almost like, okay, there's these intense emotions I'm feeling, or these deep emotions I'm feeling, or there's something I'm going through. And I'll kind of pull a notes tab out on my computer and just write. And maybe I'm feeling or I'm crying while I'm doing it. or I'm just like channeling the energy into my writing, or I'll pull out a
Mhm.
journal and do it too. And I found that it actually helps me to not avoid the emotions or bypass them or kind of stay in the funk, but it
Mhm.
actually helps me to move through the funk quicker. And then at the other side of it is actually something that didn't formerly exist, right? Like a poem or writing or a newsletter to send out to someone. So I just wanted to share that. And that's why I was curious if you do that at all, because it's helped me to understand, because I'm a very emotional person and a very sensitive person, and I feel a lot of things. And it's helped me just to work with those and just create something out of them rather than be like, oh, why am I feeling this way? Or I'm just going to sit in this, or I'm going to, be in a bad mood today or whatever it is. It helps me move through it and then create something beautiful out of it.
100%. Yeah, I think that, um, some of, as they say, some of the greatest, pieces of art and work and stuff do come from struggle and pain. And I think it has to. That's like, obviously, this is not an easy experience being alive. And, but to be able to actually, it is therapeutic to just get whatever is in you out. And because I mean, yeah, just like we're constantly just so in our own heads about everything that's happening, and we're hard on ourselves. And to have something to channel that into something positive that could actually help somebody else is, and it's like it's scary too. Like I'm sure a lot of times, you don't want to show somebody that like what you just poured out. And like I feel that as well. Like can I just kind of just rant? Like I've never really done like a just a ranty article, but just like something that's pissing me off. I usually, like, even if I do, I might wait a day. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say that. Or but like sometimes you want those just raw emotions. You want to see that too, to see that somebody else is going through that. And so I think it's good. Like sometimes I should let myself just maybe even just post something that, I wrote 20 minutes ago in like an angry state, because angry writing is very impactful as well.
Mm,
Not, I think should be said, not obviously not like angry at certain people or anything, but like just there's something in this, maybe in the world, there's something about myself that is
mhm,
upsetting, and like I'm not feeling good. And that's what I want to share.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the truth is it's relatable, right? As long as it's not violent or, like you said, targeting somebody else or malicious, it is
Yeah.
really relatable to know, oh, Vinny's going through something real. I went through something similar 3 years ago, or maybe I'm going through the same thing in my own unique way right now. And it can actually, I mean, you talk about authentic human connection, it actually helps people connect in versus, yeah, when we're curating things or trying to polish things or not actually show the humanity in ourselves, it doesn't always land as deeply as it can. So
Mhm.
go for it. I'll read it.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
I'll
Yeah,
read
it's
it.
it's I mean, yeah, we're just not like, with the authentic human connection thing, it's just, it seems like what me and Greg are just kind of like on, my
Mhm.
co-host best friend situation. uh we just like, this whole, the way the world is moving just towards like separating more and more, like us versus them, and just
Mhm.
like putting up these walls. We just really, figure out a way just to get back to kind of being human. And like a lot of that is just from talking to people in the real world, talking to strangers, and like just opening up and being vulnerable. And obviously I'm not prancing around just like high-fiving strangers and stuff. Like I grapple with it too, of like, oh man, I should have said something. Like I
Mm,
had this compliment in me to that person on the train, and I just held it in, like didn't say anything. Like
mm,
why did I hold it in?
mm.
um I don't know, kind of side note there, but it's
Yeah.
like the things that we do just kind of get out off the cuff are like the most authentic things that we all do connect with and share. And it's kind of the webs between us all.
Mm, absolutely. And you talked about this in your book throughout. Just, I mean, you spoke to encouragement, and that's something I really wanted to dive into because I started to think a lot about how important encouraging other people is and how we all want to be encouraged in these different ways. But you also had these different stories around, I think it was a friend of yours said something to another guy. Hang on, I'm going to remember this. He basically, it was early on in your book, and I think the guy was acting. Was it acting classes or public speaking
Yeah,
classes? Acting. Do
my
you want to
brother
share?
Duke. Sure. Yeah, so my brother Duke is an actor. He lives in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Go figure. And he was at an acting class, and this other student just went on stage. He was like super cocky, like kind of thought he was like the big shot in the
Hmm.
group apparently, and just like looked like, he's gonna just give a hell of a performance. And he just
Hmm.
went up there and just completely bombed, like just couldn't remember the words, was just like so nervous. And funny enough, my brother saw him at a restaurant like later that night. And he's just thinking, Duke's brother's name is Duke. And he's
Hmm.
like, should I go over and say something? Like, I'm sure he's just, hates himself right now. Like, all right, might as well. Goes over and says, like, hey man, like, I'm from the acting class from earlier, like, no worries. Like we all bomb. Like that is just bound to happen. Like, don't worry about it. Just move on. You'll be fine. Just pretty much gave him some words of encouragement. And he like
Hmm.
kind of acted like almost like bigger than it, like the guy at the time, okay, whatever. But then later he like texted, I guess they swapped numbers, and he just
Hmm.
said like God works in mysterious ways. Like I was just ready to quit. Like that was the end for me. But like you pretty much saved me. So
Hmm.
just like some few words that you just never know how they can impact somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you speaking to, right, maybe you're on the train and you want to compliment someone and you're in your head. I think so often us being in our heads and judging ourselves and worrying, is this going to come across not the way I want it to come across? How are they going to receive this? Is this okay? Like us being up there in our heads are actually preventing us from gifting someone something that they could really need in that moment. So I think
Mm-hmm.
if we have that in the back of our minds of, oh, this could be that thing to encourage someone or inspire someone, or it could be that, that sunshine in their day, whatever it is. I always think I like to compliment. So I'm a woman, right? And I like to compliment other women if I notice, oh, I really like, it's all authentic. It's like, oh, I really love those earrings. Let me tell her, or
Yeah.
she has a pretty smile, or whatever it is. Because I know as a woman, if you get a compliment like that, it's like, oh my God, this person told me they like my smile. Like all day, I'm going to be so happy. It really does light you up. So I know it's like I've received that gift before. I know that it can make my whole day better if somebody says something genuine like that. So I want to give that to other people as much as possible whenever it feels authentic, because it is that gift. And you never know. Okay, if I share this to someone, it could brighten up their next hour. It could brighten up their next day. It could brighten up their entire week, whatever it happens to be. And similar to what you were sharing, we're all craving connection. We really are. We're just really scared sometimes. And we're just conditioned to be on our phones or close ourselves down, or we've been hurt in the past, or we feel awkward, or we're nervous about how we're going to come across to somebody else. So we don't do that. But I think if you can have that in the back of your mind of, okay, would I like if someone complimented me? Would I like if someone smiled at me? Would I like if someone held the door open for me? Yes, yes, yes. So I'm going to keep getting out of my head and do that as much as possible for other people.
For sure. Like what I'm just trying to get better at, and it is a lifelong journey, but it's just like acting on intuition instead of like, so if you
Mm.
give yourselves the 3 seconds to think about what you're going to say to the person, you're already probably not going to do it. Like if you're
Mhm.
like, I've questioned it, but if like you see somebody's shoes, for some reason it's usually
Yeah.
shoes for me. I'm like, I like your shoe. Like if I just say it, just say the thing. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, they always, I mean, whether or not they're, receptive, like you gave the person a compliment. It's a good thing. You could have, to go to the full end of the spectrum, you could have saved their life. Like
Mhm.
you could make their
Yeah.
day, or you could literally save their life just with like being seen, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, just like those are the things that that do connect us, and like just
Mm.
it is, as it's kind of corny, but Walt Whitman would say like the gift is to the giver, like that gives something good to them,
Mm.
but also like you are you're making the universe happy by getting out of your own head, contributing to something, and like um call this flirting with life. It's
Mm.
uh the concept is from, I forget his name, but Charisma on Command is this guy, his
Mm.
business. Really interesting.
Mm.
Um, I haven't really done much with it besides just listening to him on the podcast, but
Mm.
pretty much this concept of like flirting with life. Like as a guy, it seems like the way the world is turning is, guys are getting more afraid to approach girls, ask for numbers,
Mm.
kind of the ways that things were done for the last hundreds of years, thousands, like actually approaching somebody. And now it's
Mm.
like, why do I need to approach this girl when I can just hop on my phone and look like I'm busy and then scroll, on a dating
Mm.
app later. So I'm trying, obviously, like all of the stuff that I'm saying, it's like it's still very hard for me too, but
Mm.
um trying to get better of, acting out in the field, as I say, like flirting with
Mm.
life. It's not just to, get girls' numbers. It's like also just like give an old man a compliment,
Mm.
like smile at some kids, and like that flirting with life will get you better at preparing if you do see the girl of your dreams to go up to her and say something, because you're always flirting with life. So it
Mm.
just makes it all much easier.
I like that. Yeah, it's like greasing the groove, practicing.
Exactly. And so it is practice. Like if you're in the
Mm.
elevator and somebody there, just say what up. No, no, no. Why not?
Say something.
It's
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm, like I said, not talking to every person I see, but just trying to get better little by little.
Yeah. Well, I love you speaking to it. And I think it's also what you share, just it's the intuition, or it's the instinct, or it's the, oh wow, I really like that necklace or those shoes, or oh, let me open up this door for someone, or let me smile at them. Like in those moments, just do it versus go into your head and then, oh shoot. But then again, okay, there's always next time. But I think
Exactly.
also I love this conversation because I think about this a lot, because I don't want to be somebody ever who holds back like my expression, especially saying I love you to people that I love. And what made me really sink this in, I might get emotional right now, but what made me sink it in, and I think fortunately, unfortunately, I think death can be a huge catalyst for individuals to just rethink our behaviors, right? Because like something's like, it just brings you into the, I guess, fragility of us, and just the fact that our lives are impermanent. But about a year ago, my final grandpa passed away. And I've shared about this in my podcast before, and I was very open on social media and whatnot as I was, we were taking care of him in the end of his life. And I was very present for the end of his life. And that's something I did very intentionally. I was living in Hawaii at the time. I moved back home for 3 months, and just my work schedule was flexible. I had the ability. So I would sometimes work from his nursing home and just be with him to really soak up those moments. But kind of in that space and time, Vinny, it was like I could just see, just there was like a lot of drama within my family and just within the siblings, and people not really sharing I love you, or expressing themselves, or harboring pain from the past, or just holding on to things, right? And you're with this person who's at the end of his life, and we just had all these highs and lows with him where we're like, okay, he's going this week, and then all of a sudden he would just spring back up, and he wasn't going. He's a Marine, so he was like a fighter, and he just like would not
Damn.
let go. Yeah, it was like a whole thing. We joke that he was like a cat with 9 lives, just kept on going. But I really was like very present and witnessing and observing that time. I was also observing my dad, because it's his dad, and just everyone's emotional reactions to it. And for whatever reason, I don't know what it was, different conversations with my dad about it, but me and my dad had some conversations after he passed, and it was just around like, life is too short to not express to people that you're grateful for them, that you love them all of the time, and let the people in your life know that you love them, that you're grateful for them, literally all the time. I don't think that you can say it too much. That's my own personal belief. Like tell them as much as you want. And I don't know where I'm getting at this, but I think the whole point was just express the gratitude, express the love, because we never know. My grandpa's 92, he lived a long life, but somebody could go tomorrow, or, the person that you love could just all of a sudden something could happen to them, or just things can happen at any point. And when you're in kind of like so present for the end of life process, it makes you really think about it. I think most people who might be listening who have lost someone, you really think about things when you're like, you lose someone, you're so present with it, or tragically or suddenly, or however it happens. But that was something I took as a gift for myself. And since then, I mean, my behavior, I've always been a very like lovey-dovey expressive person, but I've been so intentional about that. Just even on Thanksgiving, so many text messages were sent of like, I love you, I'm grateful for you, blah, 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 blah. And just daily to my friends and my family members and those who mean a lot to me. I think it's really important that we make that a habitual part of our personality traits, because people want to be seen and loved and acknowledged. And if we can be that voice and be that person, I think it's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's like what I mean, I have this quote that I will read in a second, but it just hits on this. But it's what can be more important than like, sharing that you love the people that you're with, and like that really make life worth living. At the end of our lives, is any of the stuff that we've accumulated, or just the, our career, what's going to be more important? Just the lives that we've affected, and the relationships. It's like we are here. I mean, yeah, I think a lot just for why I'm pretty much doing everything. Like, what is the point of pursuing the writing and everything? And like, I'm lucky to find something that it gives me. I don't want to just be like the best writer that there is. Like, it's not just, I'm not doing this to like be successful in traditional sense. Like, definitely see success as something else, but it helps me just explore like why we're here, and that's why I love it. And it's like, it really is, it's relationships, it's to experience this gift of being alive. And if I may just read this quote, so I recently read The Algebra of Happiness by Scott Galloway, who's a NYC or NYU like business professor and author. He says, we have an even greater reservoir of admiration and good thoughts about others that can get caught in the filters of insecurity and fear. To not let that dam burst is to cut life short and shortchange joy. There are so few absolutes. One of them, nobody ever says at a funeral, he was too generous, too kind, and too loving. Nobody ever. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that. That's so funny. The other Greg, actually, shout out to Greg.
Greg.
He gave a speech in Toastmasters, and in the speech he asked everybody if they had a word that they wanted to be remembered by. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Greg, but I'm pretty sure he asked everyone in the audience if they had a word they wanted to be remembered by, what would that word be? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, just one? We only get one, Greg? We don't get like 7 words? So since then, since then I've actually written my words. It inspired me, and I wrote my words and I put them on my door in my bedroom. But one of them was generous. And since then I've been really thinking about, okay, generous, how can I show up as a generous person? And it kind of goes back to our conversation. Be generous with your compliments, be generous with your love, be generous with your time. I think so many of us get so like stingy about things and boundaried, and it's like, what's the point of that? It blocks the connection, it blocks the relationships. And yes, have the boundaries and know how to say no. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I liked that generous word. It's been something I've been really exploring. And that's what I would love for people to say that at my funeral, that Shannon was very generous. Feels good.
She was just generous. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I think that's in the most like, natural sense, like what generous is. It's, you think of like he's generous. He gave a lot of his things away, or like she was generous with their time, but it is generous with love. Like just,
Mm,
I think with creating art, with writing, with anything, to have a, what's the opposite? Scarcity mentality. So like an
mm,
abundance mentality is like, there's always like, this idea isn't just my idea, and
mm,
I can't hold on to it, like, because I think it's gonna, like, if I hold on to this, nobody else can have it, and like it's such a good
mm,
idea that I'm afraid to even share it. Abundance mentality is like, oh, this is a great idea, another one will come, like this is not even mine, this is the world, and it's coming through me. And
mm,
to be just abundant with your general, with your words, your love, just letting everything flow through you. And that's like, that is the dam that must break. That is to let like life flow through you, and to hold it up in the scarcity mentality of like not enough, and we have to, you know, resources for us, and like this is us versus them. It's like there's always more of that well of life keeps just kind of flowing through you. And just with anything, I think like money, just love, creativity, inspiration, everything just flows in, flows out. You can't be holding on to stuff, because that's what makes us sick.
mm. Yeah. Letting it flow through. I love that what you spoke to. It's the world's not mine. It's just coming through me. I really love
Yes.
that.
One of my favorite quotes is Marcus Aurelius, who is this Roman Stoic emperor, um,
Mm,
which is like one of the greatest emperors in Rome, there wasn't many. And he said, like, life is a well that flows through you. Like, if you don't want to stop, it won't. So just like life
mm,
is just a well that just flow through you. Let it come in, let it flow back out.
mm. I love that. I think about that. I talk to people a lot with emotions. That's how I relate to emotions of, we can stop it, we can suppress it, we can try not to feel it. But at the end of the day, it's literally just energy that wants to flow through you. And as soon as you surrender to it and have the big cry or scream into the pillow or shake your body, it's going to
Yeah,
flow through you. So
for
I
sure.
love that for, yeah, generosity and love and expression as well. Will you read your poem now?
Sure.
One of your poems?
Yes. So yeah, I wrote this in July. Um, so I love you, body. I love you, body, and I will do whatever it takes to help you live. In doing so, my soul can see. In doing so, this thing called life can beat from the red volcanic heart within my chest. In doing so, love may emanate from the core of my existence, and healing, as I take wisdom from the world, may come to us, one and the same, a form without separation. I, you, it, us, them, we, free. I love you, body, and I will do whatever it takes to help you live. The day will come when we've had our fill, when the well of thought has emptied and the ink's gone dry, when these eyes have seen the treasures of the earth and cried upon their beauty, when these legs, despite the pain, the hurt, the cracks and burns we feel, have walked for miles, miles of empty roads, bustling foreign streets, deep white sand and mountains of snow, and they've felt the weight of gravity, I will still love you. Despite your faults, my faults, which I have blamed on you. To have a body, it often seems separate from the self. I try to fix you like a car instead of loving you like a friend. I try to mold you like a statue instead of marveling at your imperfections. I wish instead of thank. I push instead of feel. I try to solve you like a puzzle, and I cry when I can't. I cry when I hurt. I question if you'll ever be the way you once were, instead of simply watching you grow, feeling you speak and listening to you as you become all you're meant to be. I'm here to listen forever and always. I'm here for you. Despite the age and the wear and the beating we have taken, I will love you, if only for the strength to smile to a friend an enemy, a stranger, a child, so they may love their body too. And when we leave these bodies and we enter eternity, we shall dance and smile and rejoice that we had bodies at all, for they gave us the chance to play on planet Earth.
What exactly inspired that? You said, was it your back injury or was it anything else as well?
Yeah, so definitely back injury. So it happened like early 20s. Um, and since then, I've just kind of been on this road of discovery, really just figuring out like
Mm,
what is this relationship I have with my body? What
mm,
is just is it something that, is emotional pain that I'm holding on to?
mm,
Is it just pushing myself too much and just this idea that I need to be perfect and just
mm,
always wanting to get back to that? Um, and is it just even an identity that I'm holding on to? Like I have to be this athlete when maybe that's not what in that sense I'm meant to be.
mm,
But yeah, so that was over the summer. And, every time that I've kind of broken down and been like seriously hurting, one way or another, I've come back from it and just kind of gone back up and started working out again and tried something new. And so this was just over the summer when I was feeling pretty good. And yeah, it's been a quite the road journey that I've been on
mm,
with it. But yeah, that was from that and just this moment, just I mean, obviously sure you exercise in some capacity. Just
mm,
I have some like my best, revelations like in that moment when I mean, definitely for me too. And I'm first of all, just grateful that I can even like a lot of it is just giving me gratitude that I can even walk and like,
mm,
feel air in my lungs. And um, being in a city has been eye-opening as well, just to see so many people just literally hunched completely 90 degrees, like staring at the ground on the walk is it's just like, wow, I am so lucky. But so in this moment, just, just kind of hit me that like, wow, you've been through a lot. You've always gone back up when you've fallen down and you always will. And it's we're in this together, me and you, body. Like
mm,
we will make it through this. And
mm,
there's much more than just the body. And but just trying to treat it, as best as you can. And there'll
mm.
obviously be ups and downs. And what really matters is getting back on the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can only imagine the just the frustration, different things. I know you shared not wanting to focus too much on it, but I think for anyone who, when you're going through something challenging with your body, whether it's an injury or pain or a rash or an infection, I've gone through my fair share of things in my past. It's a hugely challenging thing emotionally, mentally, physically, because you can't escape your body. I mean, we try in so many different ways through alcohol and drugs and social media and all sorts of things to just escape being in our bodies because there's emotions and it's uncomfortable and all sorts of things or pain or whatever it is. But when you're going through that, it's really challenging. So I appreciate you opening up a little bit about that and just creating something beautiful out of it. And I do have a question. I'd be curious. You shared about the back stuff as a man, because I know I speak to a largely female audience, and I deeply relate to struggling with body image and just going through, I mean, my fair share of body image challenges of just looking in the mirror and beating my body up. I mean, I had an eating disorder and body image challenges throughout high school and college. It's really a huge catalyst for the work I do now and helping young women overcome different things they're going through. Is that something you've ever gone through? You mentioned perfectionism. Have you ever had body image challenges or judged your body as far as like the aesthetic look of your body in different ways? Or is that something you go through at all now?
For sure. Yes. Thank you for sharing that as well. And But yes, 100%. Like I think that's one of the best, just the greatest lessons that I've taken from this is, so I think, it all kind of stemmed from, I come from a very athletic family. My dad was a professional tennis player. Um,
Mm,
Family all just, we bond over athletics. And um, so I mean, I'm sure in some way that's what, like, in high school and everything kind of drove me to, in college, I was literally just like working out so hard, like 2 hours was like, pretty regular. Just like I was known to just be walk out of the gym just like drenched. And partially
mm,
because I do love it. Like I love pushing myself and just really taking it there. But I thought that I had to work that hard to like just to look a certain way.
mm,
And this injury did happen like after college, and I was still in that same mindset of like, for some reason you have to be in perfect shape and like just going balls to the wall like every day and just going nuts. And I think just, yeah, eventually just kind of snapped. And
mm,
um but so that's one of the biggest things, has just been getting over. I mean, to answer your question, yes, definitely still do like look at myself and like, why do I have to, I still like, I mean, I think it'll be a lifelong journey,
mm,
which fitness and health definitely is. But of like, why do I, like, even in Japan, like, I don't know anybody here. Like, why am I still trying to look a certain way? And just realizing that, like, exercise and fitness and health is not, the way you look is should be the least important aspect
mm,
of it. Like, what I've learned is just the most, like I was saying earlier, like my greatest revelations and like ideas and stuff I've come, I mean, not all of them, but like I've had definitely some very eye-opening ones, and just cried like a lot, just, you know, just on runs, and like the
mm,
times when I've, been down, but I still find a way just to do something. And
mm,
realizing that like the it's got to be a positive, health has got to be a positive thing. If you're punishing yourself,
mm,
um, if you're going to the gym as like punishment, which I definitely did in college, I'd go to the gym at like 7 a.m. like after a night of partying because I hated, I mean, yeah, I hated myself, and I was either just like trying to work off the drinking, which you could, maybe do in college, but can't do anymore. And um and just like, yeah, maybe I'd like fast the next day as like punishment to, combat like excess. Like one of my biggest struggles has been like trying to find a balance in pretty much
mm,
everything that I do. It's like, it's usually, I go pretty hard on something, and then it's like, okay, let's cut it out completely. I think for anybody, one of the hardest things is like moderation and
mm,
temperance. But yeah, still definitely, dealing with that. I've learned a lot, and just kind of giving myself just like these days, and just in the last, like, being here in Japan, it takes more for me to go to the gym like for 30 to 45 minutes instead of like an hour and a half. Like, okay, pull back. Like and obviously it's not like that for everybody. And it is, it, it's good in some sense, but like, I love it. And like, I am still just trying to push myself, but I question like, why am I doing this? Like, exactly, if I'm, and getting to a point where I only want to do what's actually making me feel good, instead of like trying to look a certain way
mm,
yet hurt. I'm like, why?
mm,
What's going on there? Like, why am I doing that? Instead of like, I'm just trying to figure out how to heal.
mhm,
And it's definitely not a, health and fitness and is not a clear, straight line. It is a journey that meanders and weaves and bobs. And so I think just whatever, it's gotta be easier on ourselves.
mm,
Like, it is not worth, I don't know, what kind of life is it when you're a slave to looking a certain way?
mm,
Not a happy life, I don't think. So
absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you opening that up a lot. Is there anything for you particularly that helps you to be easier on yourself, gentler on yourself, kinder to yourself, quotes, mindset shifts, practices that actually have helped you or are helping you right now, whether it's with just your personality or your writing or your relationship with your body?
For sure, yeah. I think, like I was saying, kind of just like for in the, health and kind of working out aspect of just like trying to do what I'm not on a mission to look, you know, to be in perfect shape anymore. Like
Mhm.
I think, and also getting over the, I definitely have a fear of like, am I only going to deteriorate
Mm,
from this point on? Like I'm 27, and
mhm,
when I hear people say like, oh, you're too young to like have back pain, I'm really just hearing them say like, oh, it's probably going to get worse. Like,
mhm,
how are you having this already? But definitely a mindset shift, and like something that I have to believe is like you know, there's a way out of this pain, and this is not how it's going to be forever. And best days are still ahead of you. So it will get
mm,
better. It will get better. Um, and just trying to find like, instead of like looking a certain way, how to feel the best that I can. So if that means,
mm,
and it takes a, mental toll to wake up every day and instead of just being like, I have to go to the gym, like I know I have to go 5 days a week, be like, how do I feel today? And like assess it.
mm,
Sometimes I do have to be like, even though I feel a little bit off, like I might feel like sometimes I do feel better from going to the gym and kind of stretching and stuff.
mhm,
So I do have to kind of just get over that hurdle. But sometimes I'm like, okay, like don't go to like you deserve a day off. Like don't go. And just realizing that it is, I mean, I think this has all been a journey for me to find some sort of balance. Like I don't have to push myself every day in physical, you know, in that sense. Like you can't do everything at once. It's a big one. Like, if I'm gonna work, I'm gonna write all morning, like I want to do this, then I can't do 10 things. Focus on that, give
mm,
myself to it. It's all gonna be okay. Like if you don't go to the gym today, things will be fine. You're doing great. Just,
mhm,
enjoy your life. Enjoy your
mm,
life. Take that pressure off. I think
mm,
is a theme that continues to come up. And that
mm,
really does, in large part come from just enjoying just the freedom that we all share. Like things just be able to feel the sun on your face and just go out for a walk like that. Sometimes just like taking a walk over going to the gym is
mm,
better for you because that will be like more healing to the mind than going to grind it out.
mm,
And obviously there's spectrums to this whole thing, and some of us need motivation to go to the gym and get to a certain place where you you respect yourself in a sense too. Like I respect myself that I am pursuing something that is important to me. Like I do want to get into better shape. Um, and if I'm setting a schedule, then stick to it. And I think that does give you confidence and stuff. But like if it is becoming, it could definitely go the other way. So I kind of going off on a tangent here a bit, but I did, have a little bit of a eating disorder as well after college, like just for punishment too, like getting so um just into fasting for the wrong reasons. But like, yeah, just after um I thought that like I had a big weekend or something, like party with my friends, and like, oh, I need to fast for like, let's try fast for a day. And I turned in like 2 days and did three at one point. But it wasn't like I wasn't in like a great headspace where it's just like, okay, like I'm next week, I'm gonna fast for 3 days for like just to, cleanse the system. It's like I need to do it to like punish myself and kind of disguised as this positive thing of like, oh, fasting, this is what you're supposed to be doing. It's so good for you. But yeah, it was taking me to kind of a dark place until somebody at work, like, was like, you're looking very skinny, like unhealthily. Like, okay, gotta shape up. Let's figure out what's going
mm.
on here. And
Yeah.
gotta take care of yourself. And that goes much further beyond just how you look.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot. That really, it means a lot to me, just you opening up that vulnerably and sharing from a male's perspective as well, the things that you've gone through. And I'm grateful that person said something, and it just kind of circles back to earlier in the conversation as well, of just expressing things, speaking up, and that coworker saying something to you was what you needed to check yourself and recognize, oh, this is an unhealthy thing. I'm not doing this out of kindness towards myself or love for myself. I remember when I was going through my eating disorder in high school, it took me a while. It wasn't like one friend said something and then I kind of snapped too. I actually was in
Mhm.
denial for a while personally. And because it was very disguised under, because it was also a little bit conflicting, and it's similar to speaking to what you're sharing, and just, okay, there's this part of you that loves being an athlete and running, and there's creativity involved, and there's so much to it. I mean, I'm a huge fitness fan, and there's something around about running and lifting weights that it's amazing. It's cathartic, it's empowering, it connects you with your body. It's important. And it's finding that fine line between, okay, this is healthy for me and this is serving me. And yeah, just getting to the gym and doing my stretches or doing my routine is actually going to support my body, versus, oh no, I'm doing this because I hate myself, or I'm judging myself, or I want to look in a certain aesthetic, or whatever it happens to be. And
Mhm.
for me, it's convoluted because I had this huge passion for health and fitness, and I was learning about it and just loving it. But then I spiraled into just super restrictive, super controlling. I was eating such a little amount of food. I was getting skinnier. And I think I was confused at the time. And I was in high school, and all my friends literally nicknamed me like the health nut. Right. So it was disguised as, oh, Shannon's really healthy and she knows a lot and she's reading all these books. And it was to some extent, but then there was also disordered eating underneath it. And there was this whole, oh, my worth is my body. And I was getting more attention from guys. And it was just this whole thing. And you're 18 years old, and your worth is tied into what guys think of you and your grades in school and your social circle,
Mhm.
unfortunately, but it is in a lot of ways. And that's what I'm working to break the cycles around for younger women.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had many friends approach me and say, Shannon, you look really skinny, or, oh, Shannon, is it, we had a conversation. I remember one friend being like, oh, is it about food? Like, do you want to talk about that? And at time and time again, I remember these moments so vividly in my mind. And I just was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just healthy, or no food. Like I'm good with food. I just really like eating healthy now. But I think it does, we get to a certain point where maybe we're ready for the shifts, or that sentence or phrase kind of shifts something or wakes us up. For me, it was, I started to see a therapist, and she really helped me click the dots, and then finally admit out loud, oh, I have an eating disorder, and that's what this is. But oh my gosh, it took me so long to even share that. And then, I mean, years later, oh, I actually want to heal this disordered eating and have a healthy relationship with my body and learn how to love myself. What does that look like? What a concept. So anyway, to your point, I'm really glad that you opened that up and just shared a little bit about that, and grateful someone said something and that it was able to kind of click something within you. And we're still, on our journeys with it. There's no perfect relationship with our body or food, and it's a constant evolution, but I do appreciate you sharing some of your experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some of the ways like you, have a better relationship with with food and with eating, and how have you kind of found, because with me it's just like learning how to, I think that when you restrict something, it like makes you want it. It definitely makes you want it more,
Mm,
but like, and then it would make me go off and like binge, and then that's when I would, you know, go the other way. So it's like binge and then
mhm,
uh yeah, fast, but just like
mm.
starve yourself. It's like, how have you found that kind of more positive relationship and kind of more of a balance?
Mm, great question. There's so many layers to it, Vinny. There really, really
Oh yeah,
are.
it's not straightforward.
Yeah. So for me, there's a couple different things for me personally, because There is. So, okay. So the first thing I actually want to share is when it came to my relationship with food, I actually had to recognize that it wasn't about food. And for a while, I was just hyper fixating on food, 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 food. Okay. And I went to nutrition school and I've tried everything. I've tried literally everything. I mean, all
Yeah.
like paleo, all the things, right? And to some extent, it was cool because I had some different gut issues and I had autoimmune psoriasis. And so I was kind of experimenting on myself and, oh, okay, an autoimmune paleo approach actually helped me to heal my psoriasis. And so there was a really cool experimentation to it. But then, right, I got to that point right after I graduated college where I was like, okay, I am actually, like you said, in my mind, certain foods are now bad and I'm scared to eat them. And I'm actually really anxious about, going to parties or different things. And then if I eat foods, I'm really upset with myself. And I had no freedom around it, right? There was nothing freeing about my relationship with food at
Yeah.
all. Even like traveling, me and one of my best friends traveled, backpacked around Southeast Asia after college. And it was really challenging because there's so much restriction there. It's like, how do you even enjoy the food and the culture when you have like 7 different things that you can't eat, like,
Yeah.
no sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no soy. Southeast
Yeah.
Asia, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So,
Not good.
yeah. So, it's like you just kind of have to find the balance. So anyway, I came to the point where I was like, okay, it was like a line in the sand moment of like, I'm so done with this. I'm done. I'm done with this pattern. I'm done hating myself. I'm done with this whole food and body image thing. And it wasn't like, okay, now I'm done. And now tomorrow it's all fixed. But that was like my moment of like, I'm making a decision here and I'm going to figure this out. And so then I started to work with therapist coaches, and one, woman really helped me and just recognize, okay, it's not about food. We're not even going to focus on food. And so we more went deeper into my emotions and my relationship with myself, and like the fact that my worth was tied to my body image. So then when I started to unravel that and unpack that, and that's a layered process. I mean, even 2 weeks ago, I had a whole nother thing with body image come up. Body image is something that it just constantly rearing its head to me, especially in relation to men, to be honest, and just like how men perceive me or all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a big thing for me is, okay, my worth is my appearance and what I look like and whether or not I'm attractive or getting attention or worthy in the eyes of men or grades at school. It's like those two things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to unravel and unpack that. And then that gave me the spaciousness to like loosen the reins on food a little bit. And then what I started to do was just really dive deeper into how do things make me feel and from a place of love. So it's like, okay, if I'm approaching it from a place of love, and if I were to love myself, how would I want to feel every day? Okay, well, I'd want to feel energized and healthy, and I'd want to sit down with my food and enjoy my food and be present with it and all these different things. So coming at it from that angle, and then I basically just experimented and I started to, okay, let's eat gluten again and see how you feel. And for me, I actually feel so crappy. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't eat gluten because if I do, you don't want to be around me. I'm not a fun person to be around. I have like a headache. I'm moody. I get a little depressed. I get brain fog. So I know that, right? So it's like kind of exploring that. Okay, so that's not something that I'm going to do. So how do I feel when I do dairy? So for me, it was just this like constant, and let me know if this is answering your question, but it's this like
Yeah,
constant,
totally.
experimentation. Okay, let's try something, let's put it back, blah, 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 blah. But then always coming back to, if I love myself, if I were to love my body, how am I going to approach this? And if I were to love myself and my body, well, I want to enjoy whatever I want to enjoy. I want it to be very intuitive. I want to be able to have treats, have different things, really enjoy. I mean, I'm a huge foodie, and travel, like when you're traveling, you want to eat the cuisine. Like you have
You
to.
have to.
You
Yeah,
have
you
to.
have
It's like
to.
the best, in my opinion, it's like one of the best parts of traveling is
Oh, definitely.
food. So
Yes.
I was just in India, and it's like, oh, it's so freaking good. And
Ooh.
yeah, so it's like you just have to, and it's something that it connects us. It brings a lot of fulfillment to life. So for me, it really just, that's been a big exploration. It's been okay, I'm going to like try this out again, see how it goes. And then just really recognizing how I feel, after I'm eating things, when I'm eating things. Oh, okay, so I did overeat sugar or whatever. I'm noticing I'm like a little bit more addicted to sugar right now. Why is that? Well, one, sugar is just super addicting. And two, well, maybe I'm not connecting with people enough this week. So for me, it's really this like intuitive practice, or I'm not getting enough hugs. I'm a big hugger. I'm always like, can I have a hug? So it's things like that of just recognizing, okay, what's actually going on here, and going deeper into like my intuition, my body, and my emotions. And then it's like it manifests as food, but it's not about food. So as soon as I recognize, okay, it's not about food, and I want to love myself, I want to love my body. If I were to do that, how would I approach this? And then it's just literally a constant experimentation, and it's being really gentle with myself. So if I do eat a lot of sugar or whatever it is and feel bad, or I overeat, and then I'm really, I don't know, uncomfortable and full, it's really just like, I just don't beat myself up anymore. Honestly, I've gotten to this place where it's like, oh, like I want to cry, because I used to beat myself up so much over every single thing I did and every single mistake I made. And I still don't like making mistakes, Vinny. I really don't like to. But it's like when I do, I just don't beat myself up. I'm just really aware of that, because you mentioned this. I listened to your podcast episode with Greg around, we're with ourselves 24 hours, always, every single day. I believe that too. I think about that often. And if I'm always with myself, like, I don't want to be in those energies of like judging myself and beating myself up, because I'm the one who has to spend time with me all of the time. So I think about that too, of, okay, can I really just enjoy spending company with myself, and be kind and be loving, and just really like let those patterns go as much as possible.
Mhm.
That was long-winded.
No, great answer. It's becoming, I mean, this is what we talked about, um, becoming a better friend to yourself. Like
Mhm.
this Stoic philosopher Seneca would say, like, how do I know that I'm making progress? I'm becoming a better friend to myself. And
Mhm.
if you are traveling with your best friend, and they are not saying like this is you, but like if you're traveling with your best friend and they're like, ah, no, I can't, you're in India, now I can't eat like naan and stuff. It's like, ah, damn it, you really can't, you can't eat that. And just, you're not that fun to be around. So like it's like, okay.
Mm.
And so if you're your best friend to yourself, like what do? You want to be fun to be around. You want to be positive. You want somebody who is picking you up when you're falling. You want somebody who's just like having a good time and also makes you get the best out of yourself.
Mm.
And to become a better friend to yourself is really what can be more important in like this journey. Like no matter what happens, how would a friend treat you? Like
Mm.
if we're so hard on ourselves, but if a friend were to see everything you're doing and like how hard you are on yourself, be like why are you beating yourself up over that? Like that's
Mm.
not a big deal. You're doing great, doing
Mhm.
fine. Like let's go have some naan. So at the end of the day, that has been a huge thing of like just how would
Mhm.
a friend like see you in this situation that you're being like so hard on yourself in.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like
I
enjoy
know.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
And,
easy,
and
but
yeah, and it's just recognizing your own resiliency too. I've recognized that I've been through so many different things, and just recognized, all right, yeah, if I eat the Don, for example, I'm gonna have, it's like maybe I have a headache tomorrow, maybe I'm tired. It's like, okay, you've
yeah.
had so many days with a headache where you're tired. It's just like I call myself baby girl. So I'm like, baby girl, like you will be okay. We'll get through it. You'll wake up, you know what you'll do. You'll drink some water, you'll get outside, you'll take a shower.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay. So yeah, it's like really strengthening that positive talk in those moments of like, it is really gonna be okay. And we're gonna get through this. We're gonna eat this now. We're gonna enjoy every bite of it.
Mm. Right. It's true. It's like it's also not, I think when you give yourself like the freedom to just enjoy life, and a big
Mm.
thing for me is like, I used to have rules also of like eat perfectly clean during the week, paleo, the whole thing. Then like on the weekends, pretty much eat whatever you want. So I wanted to like I
Mm.
food, I could pretty much eat anything. I like everything. So I like, this, it's pretty off limits. So when I don't, well, I don't know. I mean, I do love like all food. That's why I love traveling and stuff. So,
Mhm.
but I would like restrict myself so much and just like be so intense with dieting and stuff. And I was just losing that love for food, love for life. Like, why am I doing this? Instead of you like travel to, Italy and such, like Europe and Japan. And it's like
Mm,
people are eating gluten so much and like drinking wine, but they're not like doing it to punish themselves. It's because it's like
mm,
it's part of the culture. You eat
mm,
less of it and
mm,
like, maybe more frequently, less of it and like better
mm,
quality. So I think in a big way, it's like the stuff in the US is not, it's just not
mm,
very good. Obviously, there are, so many varieties and options stuff that you can get in the US that you really can't get in other places. But like gluten, for example, it's
mm,
yeah, not it's it's known as like pretty bad, especially in the United States, like just in
mhm,
general. But you go to other cultures and like they're part of the way of life. To like in Japan,
mm,
you can't exist without eating rice here, like you
mm,
or meat, pretty much. Like heard
mm.
it's very hard to be vegan. Like meat is in everything,
Yeah.
and it's just part of the culture. And like you don't want to lose that love for life because you're restricting yourself so much. And if you actually do, like a big part of it is definitely, being intuitive and like actually asking yourself questions like, how am I feeling from this?
Mhm,
Am I, restricting myself because I want to be a certain way? Or am I, I actually do feel bad. So like I don't need to eat
mhm,
gluten all the time. Um, but yeah, I think when you give yourself more freedom, you actually become more controlled. Like
mm,
the more you restrict yourself, the more you just want to break free and like go off the
mhm,
rails instead of not having a strict diet, but having more of a foundation of health.
mm,
It's
mm,
definitely something that I've started to foster and like look for and try to build on. Because I just love vegetables and like I love healthy food and stuff. So like after a
mhm,
while of just like eating unhealthily, I'm like just craving a big old salad. And like
mm.
I know that that is my base layer that I always return to. So
Yeah.
like might as well enjoy life as well. I mean, yeah, I know how to if you don't love vegetables and stuff, I don't know how to make you, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, and it's the self-trust piece too. That's kind of what I am hearing a little bit in what you're sharing is, yeah, the going off the rails, eating all sorts of things. You're in Japan, you're gonna eat all sorts of things when you're there. I just hope you try all the things at least once.
Yes.
And then it is like it's the self-trust and yeah, I'm establishing this foundation of health within myself. I want to feel good. I love vegetables. I'm going to just naturally trend back to eating vegetables.
Mhm.
I think a big motivator for me, and I'm not sure if anyone else uses this as a motivator, or I don't even know if you've thought about this in your life yet, but I don't know when this became a motivator. It might just be because I'm like such a maternal person. Maybe when I was like 25, it became a motivator. I really don't know when it first dropped in. I'm not a mother. I just like can't wait to be a mother. And I'm like, oh, one day. And I just like mothering in general. But, and I think it's because of how I was raised. I want to raise my kids differently. But I think a motivator for me is my future kids, especially I would love, 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 love putting it out to the universe yet again to have a daughter one day.
Mm.
And with that, though, I think about that future kid, future, not quite yet.
We're out
And yeah, but with the daughter and with the children, the family, what do I want them to experience when it comes to food and body image and all these different things that we're exploring and even expressing our emotions or our love or our creativity, writing, all of these things. I think about, okay, how do I want my future kids to be raised? And am I actually embodying that within myself right now? Because little kids look at what you do and they will copy you and they will emulate you. And so to that point, I think a lot about just the different traditions and things around, let's go into food specifically. Well, yeah, I don't want my daughters to see me dieting. I don't want them to see me. I said daughters, maybe I'll have two.
There we go. Don't want my bushel of children to see you dieting.
My bushel. Oh my goodness.
Bushel of children.
Ooh, calm down now.
5 kids.
Yeah. I'm gonna say a bushel. But so basically though, my kiddos, I don't want them to see me dieting. I don't want them to see me restricting. I don't want them to see me, being obsessive. I want them to see me enjoying it. I want them to see like family dinners and conversation and just being present with food and really soaking that up. So then it's like, okay, let me really work on embodying that myself, whether it's traveling or being with friends or being on my own. And again, letting go of the perfectionism of it, because also I don't want them to see me like being a perfectionist, even though they probably will, because let's be honest. But I'm working on that one. I don't mind being a perfectionist, honestly, because sometimes it's actually a good thing. It's just like your relationship with it.
High standards.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. However, that's a big motivator of me, is my point, is it's a big motivator to just think about that and have that perspective. And maybe if anyone's listening and they're a parent, they might really understand. Or have you ever thought about that personally, or is that not something that you've thought about yet?
Definitely. Yeah, I do want a family someday.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about it, especially being around little Japanese kids all day. They're very
Mm,
cute. But yes, I think, I mean, definitely something that I'm learning is just, it really doesn't matter what you say. Like, all
yeah.
90% of it matters is what you do. And that
Mm,
goes for food and just like what you want to show your kids, but just with everything. Like, I, as a writer, obviously I say a lot, but like I want to write about the stuff that I'm working on, I'm trying to embody in the actual world. Like,
mm,
I don't want to be this person who just spews ideas and thoughts and stuff without like living. This is all contributing to living the best life possible. And that's why I love traveling stuff. And writing is kind of the vehicle to express just how to live a glorious life where you're truly enjoying what you're doing and who you're becoming and just the journey of improvement and getting better. And I think, yeah, for sure, like just with family and like I was kind of saying, just the restrictions of like this is how things have to be, and just kind of putting up these, you know, these gates around you can't have this, can't have that, instead of just like creating a foundation of health and, you know, like I was saying, like just like European cultures of just you have like a small salad, you have like, you know,
mm,
I don't know, just go with the Italy theme, but pasta and like a little bit of dessert, a little bit of wine, and you're just like
mm,
talking with family and friends for out, like not just on the
mm,
weekends where you're going out to party, but like every night you're just with your friends for 3 hours over dinner and
mm,
like not getting hammered, but like just drinking wine casually. And you work the next day. It's like part of just, I don't know, in the United States, it's just very black and white, like dieting, restrictions, um, gym 5 days a week. This
mm,
is at least like, you know, kind of young 20s culture of like, and you party on the weekends, and then you have the Sunday scaries about going to work on Monday. And it's like, instead of just bringing more weekend into the week, more week into the weekend, creating an actual universe of existence that's just like harmonious and that you actually enjoy. And I mean, yeah, this goes into kind of figuring out what you truly want to do with your life and passion and stuff. But um, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you talking about that. Just like the lifestyle component of things. That's something I thought about because I'm very new to Southern California,
Where you
and
where are you from originally?
I'm from Maryland. I'm
Ah,
from,
right.
I'm from all the way, I'm on the East Coast. So I'm from Maryland. I actually went to the University of Denver. So I went to college in
You know, I that's where I did my creative writing.
yeah, I know. I saw that. Yeah,
That was
DU.
funny.
Went to
Let's go.
DU. I know. And then stayed in Denver
Pioneers.
for 4 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Go
Pioneers.
Pioneers. Let's go.
There's not a lot of school spirit there. They tried.
Pretty cool though.
But
Never been.
yeah, really beautiful school. And I mean, I met my best friend there. So it was an important, yeah, really important time in my life. But it stayed there. And then actually during COVID, I had a little tiny taste of San Diego and just fell in love with it. And then was kind of similar to you in Japan. It was a little bit just lingering in the back of my mind of like, okay, I feel like I'm going to go to San Diego. I feel like I'm meant to be there for whatever reason. But I traveled a lot during COVID and in between that time. And then now I've just gotten here just a few months ago. But something that I've really had to work on is in Southern California. I mean, you grew up in LA. There is a very body image focus and aesthetic focus all around. It's been really good for me because it's challenged me to just stand strong in just how I want to approach my body, my relationship with fitness, food, and all of that. Because I think, just like it challenges your resiliency in different ways and just, okay, can I stand strong in what I believe in, even if I notice the different, not so healthy patterns around food and fitness in Southern California. But I
Mhm.
do remember when I was going to India, just being like, oh, I'm so excited to go to India because I've been in San Diego for 2 months now. And there has been a little bit of that trigger around just even going to the gym and everyone's looking at themselves in the mirrors and just there's such an aesthetic focus of it. I'm like, oh my God, why are there even mirrors here? Can we just not have mirrors? Can we just be in our bodies and enjoy it? And, just working through it on my own.
That's interesting.
But going to India, I was so excited because I was like, oh yes, I get to go to India. And it was focused on Ayurveda and health and wellness and yoga. But I just knew going there and being in Southern India, just the culture of it, there isn't an aesthetic focus on it. It's really around health. It's around feeling good. I was the youngest there. There were women all the way up into their 70s. So it was a really cool, diverse group of women that were going on this trip. But I just remember feeling just so excited to go and be in a different culture that approached food and body image so different. There's a lot of like traditional ways that they cook the food. Food has such a different meaning. I mean, yoga has a
Mhm.
different meaning in India than it does in the United States. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, there's probably so much that you are getting by living in Japan, living in different countries, experiencing these cultures. And no matter where you end up settling, it's going to be a really beautiful influence on your future family and just who you are as an individual because you're able to be exposed and really like taking in all of these different ways that are different than you mentioned the black and white mentality of the United States that can be a little bit more rigid and maybe a little bit more aesthetic driven or goal driven, if you will.
Mhm. For sure, yeah. I mean, I have nothing against the United States. It sounds like I'm bagging on it a little bit, but there's so many positives that, the rest of the world does not have. But
Mm,
it for sure, like, yeah, I lived in San Diego, after or during COVID, while I wrote Heirs of Youth and, um, I mean, amazing place, like one of the
mm,
most prettiest and just nicest places to live.
mm,
And it's kind of part of it. I'm like, wow, I don't think I've earned this yet. Like I, maybe I have like a family here one day or something, but I need a little bit more just like, I mean, I've always wanted to live in a bustling city, which is I never really experienced in
mm,
LA, where you could just like walk out your door and just be in like, sights and everything. Um,
mm,
so that's what kind of got me here. But yeah, it is. I mean, you're in such a beautiful place where the sun is always shining and you could go to the beach every day. And it is definitely many, obviously, health benefits. Like
mm.
you look great being there, just being in the sun and going to the ocean every day and stuff. So I'm jealous of your tan because I am losing mine a bit in the cold winter months here. But um, yeah, it definitely is like everybody's in shape. Like it's just you go out and it's just like, wow, like it's just overwhelming. And it's like
Mm,
it is such a focus on how
mm,
you look but what's really going on underneath the surface there? Like what does health really mean? And
mm,
that is definitely something that traveling kind of opens up your mind to, just different cultures
mm,
and just different there isn't one even though, we all know what we grew up with, what our family tells us, what we're supposed to want, but there isn't one correct way to do anything, to live,
mm,
think, religion, anything.
mm,
Um, that is definitely something that traveling opens you up to. So I think if you're in your younger 20s and mid 20s, anytime, like traveling, you got to find a way to make it happen. It just,
Yeah.
or else you'll just have this limited perspective.
Mm, absolutely. Anytime though,
For
because
sure.
I'm in my late 20s and I'm saying there were women at 75 on this trip that I
Oh
just went
yeah.
on. And it's so inspiring. It's like 60s, 70s, still learning, still traveling. It's anytime. I think in your 20s, it's a little bit easier, I guess,
Mhm.
if you will. You don't have family, kids, some of people, but I think at any point, if you have the ability to, I would definitely agree with you. I think it's amazing that you're living in another place for a year and maybe beyond. That's going to be incredible for you. It already
Thank you.
is. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Like it is. I mean, I'm teaching an 81-year-old Japanese man English, like in one of my
Wow.
classes. And I have went to lunch together. It was great. And it's like perennial
Mm,
learner. Like he's there learning English just for the. He's
yeah.
like he's all super into it, and I'm like, wow, that is just. It's never too late to start anything, to do anything. And like
Mm,
we think, I think as young people, we think, and just the way we're raised to think you have to work till retirement, then you retire and you could like just enjoy life at that point.
mm,
But instead of being in like, finding something that you genuinely connect with in life and like that, when you find that, you don't want to stop, you don't want to retire. Like that is the thing that
mm,
keeps you alive. That's what keeps you young, when
mm,
you get older. And um yeah, with traveling, it's like obviously just the seasons. There's seasons of our life, like you're in your 20s. That's just it's a certain type of traveling. Like you'll never
mm,
get, if you're 40, you're not going to be able to travel the same way you would at
mm,
20. It's definitely different, but it's by no means any worse. Like it is
mm,
just a different experience. So I think if you can have those experiences in those different seasons, it is something you can't really get back.
mm.
But obviously it's a lifelong journey in all of this. So it's never like a better time to do something, but it is just kind of different.
Mm, yeah, that's a great point. It is different. And there's definitely huge differences between myself versus the women who were in their 60s and 70s and their approach to traveling and their needs and all of that stuff. But I love
Mhm.
that. Oh my gosh, you're teaching an 81-year-old. That's amazing.
Uchi, he's great.
Uchi.
Uchi,
Wow. What a cool
yes,
experience.
it is funny. What?
Oh,
How long were you in India?
I was in India for 3 weeks.
Gotcha. And that was when was it?
Yeah,
Pretty recent.
that was recently. Yeah. Yeah. I actually did a Toastmaster speech on my India trip. It was 6.5 minutes, just a little more storytelling about some experiences I had. And then I did a podcast episode, a little bit kind of encapsulating my experiences there. But this is my second time in India. Have you been?
I'm not.
Oh, is it on your
Yeah.
list?
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay. Oh, yeah. It's so just amazing. I mean, I've only been to Kerala. So Kerala, and I can't say only, I mean, it's a huge privilege. I've been to India, but India is a huge country, right? So I've been to Kerala, which is southern India,
Mhm.
on the southern southwest of India. It's coastal, it's amazing, it's very authentic. So they're wearing the traditional clothing, more traditional food. Have you heard of Ayurveda at all, or Ayurvedic? Okay, so
I don't think
Ayurveda
so.
is basically, it's like a healing, it's like India's, I guess, healing system. And it uses food as medicine, supplements, lifestyle practices, body treatments to really bring your body back into harmony. I think you used the word harmonious earlier. I love that word, harmonious and harmony. And so it's
Good word.
all about, yeah, harmonizing your body and just helping to just bring wellness in. But I love the approach because I've always leaned towards, since I was younger, more Eastern medicine approaches to things. And I really like it because it's more focused on like the holistic side of things versus like, here's a prescription for said thing you're going through, symptom.
Mhm.
And they do that so well. And when you're seeing these Ayurvedic doctors and they're very much assessing your whole entire being, they're taking your pulse, they're looking at your tongue, they're looking at your eyes, they're looking at your ears, they're looking at your intestines, they're hearing how you're speaking, and they're just really assessing you as an entire individual. And then they have their different systems and trainings around how to assess what imbalances are going on. And anyway, then you have different Ayurvedic treatments when you're there, which are like body treatments, like oil massage treatments and different herbs and things. And then, you'll get herbal treatments or herbal supplements you're taking, and then you're using the food to balance things out. And I felt amazing. I always feel amazing when I'm there. And then the people, I mean, I'll just keep this short because I could probably talk for so long on this. I mean, I think of my episodes like 90 minutes where I talk about India, and I could have just kept going. But it's really, and I don't know if you're experiencing this in Japan. I've never been to Japan, so I'd be curious. But in India, people make eye contact with you. And this is Southern India. Okay. So again, I cannot speak to Northern India because I haven't been there. But in
Mhm.
Southern India, they make eye contact and they're so genuine. There's a very genuine energy of excited to see you.
Mm.
And they treat you like you are interconnected, right? You're there, you're both humans. They're excited to say hello or have a conversation or help you out. And I just love that about the culture there, and being there, you just feel really welcome and really seen. And I feel like when I first went there, like my soul came back to life. I was just so loving to people. They were so loving to me. I made so many connections with people there. I feel like there's this connection you can make where you don't really have to know the language because there's the eye contact, because there's the openness. People are open to the connection. People are still living with their families. There's just different ways of living there, but it's beautiful. It's also very impoverished, as you can imagine. So you see like the wealthiest places in the world, I mean, it's not quite in Southern India, but you see very wealthy places, or, people traveling very luxury travel next to like total poverty. And then you'll see like cows on the side of the road and beggars, but then people who are well off, and it's just all kind of mixed together. And then you have the cities, and there's not the cleanliness you have in the US. So it's just like, I mean, I don't even know if I'm describing it well, but it's like you're in obviously a different part of the world, but it's just so different,
Yeah,
it's
you're a different
so,
universe.
yes, it's so, so, so different. The energy is different. As soon as you're there, you're like, whoa, the energy is different here. And then it starts to work with you. And I feel like there's an openness that you can experience there if you are open to it.
Mhm.
And I just highly recommend. I mean, it's a really beautiful place. The people are really beautiful. There's a lot of culture still intact. The food's incredible. You can eat with your hands. Okay, I'm gonna stop
Right.
because I'll just keep going.
S-
But there's
suppose-
there's
You
a
only
lot.
eat their hands, right?
It's the best. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I've always been a hand eater. It used to be something my mom used to yell at me for. Growing up, she would be like,
Oh,
Shannon, use your fork. I'd be like, Mom, no.
oh, it's not
So,
gonna happen.
so yeah, so I go to India and I'm like, oh, full permission, no utensils. And they teach
Yeah.
you how to eat with your hands. And it's actually a really cool thing, just going into some culture things that I thought was fascinating and made so much sense is you eat with your dominant hand. So say you're right-handed, you eat with your right hand. And then when you're using the bathroom, you always wipe with your left hand. So they have
Right.
these things woven into the culture, right? So you're not like worried about, obviously people are washing their hands. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, but people are washing their hands. But
It's
you don't have to
expected.
worry about that because it's woven into the culture of you eat with your right hand and you enjoy your food with your right hand, and then you wipe with your left hand. And so you will wash your hands, but you never have to worry about it getting mixed up because it's integrated into the culture. And then I feel like, speaking to like healing relationship with food, when you're touching your food and you're connecting with your food in that way, just helps you to form more of a connection with your food and with nourishing your body and getting your senses involved. So there's a lot to
Yeah.
experience in India. Definitely
It's
go when
sounds
you can.
amazing. Yeah, it's like a more primal just way to connect with what you're doing and what you're eating. And yeah, I mean, definitely want to experience that. It sounds insane. And just realizing that, like, I think India's some of the happiest people in the world, and like they have nothing. Just
Yes.
realizing that, like, what I mean, definitely something that I am just interested in. And obviously, it's a huge thing, but like, what brings happiness? Is it traditional success of making money and everything. And I don't know, definitely something that I'm not, it's not like a total clash of like, I need, it's like, I, even just saying is tough. Like I want to be successful in traditional
Mhm.
sense, but like just definitely trying to focus in on why, like what does success mean to me? Why do I want the things that I want? What makes
Mm.
you, what actually makes you happy? Like what sort of life would be sustainable,
Mm.
and instead of just kind of pursuing these things that we're supposed to pursue just because we're supposed to and it's
Mm.
supposed to make us happy, like the pay raises and things that look good to other people. Then you go to a place like India, and I talked to in Lisbon, there's lots of Brazilians,
Mm.
and one of my coworkers at the hostel was this Brazilian, just like the most just exuberant, coolest guy, like always smiling, always
Mm.
talking to like guests and just asking about where they're from. And I had him on the podcast, Bruno, shout out.
Ooh.
And um, just talked about it in Brazil, like it's some of the poorest people in the world, but they're like the happiest. They're just known as
Mm.
like they're always laughing. They have the family, the friends, always just joking. And it's like very, Rio de Janeiro is extremely like dangerous, and like
Mm.
obviously there's poverty that you can't imagine. Same with India, but still like they have the things that are important to them. Like African cultures too are like some of the happiest, primal cultures in the world, because I don't know, they haven't been touched by this need to fill our lives and our the holes in our spirit with more things, instead of like, that intangible thing that you experience there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the connecting and the being and the humanity and all of it. So I would ask you, if you're exploring that for yourself, what are some tangible things, right, outside of I guess, the material success? What are some things that, as that happens for you, that you can anchor back in, or that you've explored, that do bring you joy in the everyday?
Hmm. Yeah. So one of my biggest inspirations, just as of late, is this writer Ryan Holiday,
Mm.
who just have you heard of him?
My dad likes them a lot. Yeah.
Ah, nice. Yes,
Hmm.
his whole thing's about Stoic philosophy. That's why I've
Hmm.
thrown in a couple of Stoic quotes on this podcast so
Oh,
far.
I get those in
But
my family text from my dad daily.
really,
Yes.
wow. But I mean, I really look up to him because his whole thing is like he, as a early in his career, he worked at American Apparel. He's like
Mm.
the right hand man, or it's like the hot shot to this, the CEO. I'm not really sure what happened at American Apparel, but apparently it was this huge fiasco, and like the CEO just blew up. And anyways, he
Mm.
realized that success, traditional success, even these people who kind of seem to have it all, like are some of the most just tormented people. And I've experienced that firsthand as well, of like
Mm.
incredible wealth does not by any means bring happiness.
Mm.
And um so what I'm kind of pursuing, and what I've kind of realized does really make me happy, is like I've really just to simplify. Like at this point,
Mm.
I know my apartment is quite small. I could give you plugged into a couple things on my computer, so it might not work. But
Mhm.
here, quick little. Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, it's a little studio. Is it
it's a little
studio?
studio. Yes,
Yeah.
so this is it, and I am quite happy here. Like
Mm.
I got like if it starts to get a little bit cluttered, like I know then it's time to
Mm.
just simplify. And like I have no real desire to like buy more clothes. Like I'm very satisfied with my wardrobe. Like it's things that each piece really brings me a lot of joy. Like I'm by no means like you know, just like I want nothing, and I'm on this journey as much as anybody else. Like
Yeah.
I love clothes. I love clothes. Used to love shopping when I was a kid, just like getting new stuff. And I thought the big house was like the thing that I wanted, like, because I
Mm.
was a kid, like having a big house seemed so cool. Like, wow,
Mm.
so big. But, but yeah, just realizing that like with clothes, and a big part of that is just I love like style. And like each piece that I have like means something to me. Like each one is like kind of been on an adventure. And like I wear it and like it's like emotional attachment. And like I don't want to just buy something new just because I can. Like I want to really cherish the things that I do have and like kind of, buff up my shoes if they're dirty and like be in it together like with my clothes almost of like, keep them, as human beings, we're not fresh and new all the time. We might get beaten up. Never made this analogy, but like get beaten up like a pair of shoes and like, then you have that experience and then you buff them up, you clean them, take them to the shoe repair, and that gives them more charm and character than like a new pair of shoes, in my opinion. Yes, not obviously it's my opinion here, but so in one sense, so yeah, simplifying and just kind of realizing that it's not the stuff that makes me happy, but just like I still love stuff, but I want them to mean something. So like I'm kind of a minimalist in that regard and realizing that I don't need much space. Like I'd love to be able to just have like a small apartment where I'm like not paying much and just be able to go outside and take a bike ride and like explore the city all afternoon instead of like having a big house to hang out in all day, which is, nothing against it. Like I definitely by no means like I'm against traditional success like that. It is, wealth does bring freedom. That's what I'm realizing is like the reason I do want to be successful in that sense is because it'll give me more freedom to do the things which actually make me happy.
Yeah.
Like at this stage, I'm obviously teaching English, like writing isn't paying the bills yet, but I do eventually like hope to like podcasting, writing, this universe that I'm kind of working on creating, I hope to be sustaining me. It's just so I could have the freedom to not have to do things I don't want to do. Like have to go to a no, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. Like I want the money and the pursuits to like, be able to enjoy life and to just be free of yeah, the need to do things that I don't want. So simplifying and figuring out what that is a big part of that. Like what actually makes me happy. What are the things that I want to do that only I could do? Like writing this kind of stuff is, and then I think for everybody, we all have something like that. If we like really dig deep and try to find what that thing is, but there is something that only each of us can do and can give to the world. And that is that need to create and give and be imaginative is what we fill with, money and things and the things that don't really make us happy. But to tie it all together, yeah, I mean, just realizing that simple life of just like the things that we could all share, like, being out in nature, hiking, friendship, like that is stuff that is important. So like fostering those things, getting good at like taking care of that stuff early in life, as opposed to looking back and realizing that I messed up and I was focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
But definitely like, they do go hand in hand, like this idea of traditional success and like, this is what I should want. Nothing against that whatsoever, but realizing what you want it for, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I hear so many people. I was in a program at the start of this year. It was like a business development program. There's a lot of male mentors in it, a lot of male mentors in their 40s and 50s, I would say. And I kid you not, every single one of them just kept giving the advice of don't chase the money or the numbers or these goals, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to get into your 40s or 50s and realize that you're miserable. And all of them had those experiences. And so I just sat there. I mean, I don't always relate to a 40-year-old man, but like, just relating to
Not
his,
in the usual sets, yeah.
his, his wisdom, the wisdom, I notice, I pay a lot of attention. So I notice things people share and when they click dots for me. And over and over again, I would have these calls with these mentors, or they would say it in our weekly calls, and they were all saying the same exact story in their own different ways of, yeah, we chased success, or we chased this, or we built this business and it got to these numbers, and we looked around us and we had the house and the wife and the family and all of the things and the success, the quote unquote success, and we were miserable. And even a guy in our Toastmasters speaks to this too. He had a very similar epiphany, and I think a lot of people do. So to your
Oh, yeah.
point, just recognizing as soon as possible, right? Because I don't like when people, I just don't want anyone listening, if you are in your 30s or 40s or 60s or 70s, to say to yourself, oh, it's too late. It's like whenever you recognize it, you recognize it.
Yeah.
So just be there. But then also recognizing and looking at, what actually brings me joy. And like you said, having clothing that has meaning to it, and getting on your bike and connecting with your relationships and doing the work that you genuinely love doing, even before you have reached the success with it, or you're fully supporting yourself with it. Like doing it now, I think, is hugely important. And then once the success does come in financially and just supports this freedom lifestyle that you want to create and the travel lifestyle you want to create, it's like a win-win, it's like, it just is. It just is.
100%. For sure. I think I don't even know if, I think doing the thing that you love, like before it has to come before the success, or else,
Yes.
right? Is there another way? Like if you are already successful and you try to start doing this thing, maybe you'd be doing it thinking that, I don't know, I'm trying to say it, but like thinking that it was basically, like, as a writer now, I know that part of what makes my like style unique or whatever
Mhm.
is that I am, I'm actually actively seeking, just pretty much what gives me the fuel to write is like this quest to figure out the stuff that we're talking about,
Mhm.
and not really like figure it out, but just this quest to pursue it and hopefully shine some light on it and give other people answers. So it's not like I'm trying to tell you like this is how things should be, but it's like we're on this journey together. I'm trying to figure it out, and this is what I am writing about, and with the podcast and everything. But as soon as like it starts to, I start doing it because I think, I'm appealing to a certain audience, or I'm making, even, money could be, definitely complicates things in certain ways, but also it is freedom. So,
Mhm.
but when you lose, I heard a really good quote of just like, if you start going away from what you like actually believe, and like just to appeal to a certain audience and to pretty much say what they want you to say,
Mm.
you go away from what made you like successful in the first place. The thing that
Mm.
made you successful is saying like what only you can say, which comes from a
Mm.
place of love or actual curiosity.
Mm.
Pretty much like what I love more than anything is just, intellectual curiosity. Like I'm just
Mm.
curious about these things, and that's why I love history and philosophy, psychology and stuff, because it's interesting. And if I could like make a life of pursuing what it means to be human, as I am one myself, and, and I'm going through it, like that sounds like a worthwhile existence.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And for you, it's just for you, it's what lights you up is unique to you. But I also think that seeing you, even for me, it's like you've inspired me a ton. That's why I asked you to be on the podcast. Cause I'm like, oh, this dude, he's living in Japan. He's written a book. He's writing his second book. He writes poetry. He's writing on Medium. He's doing all of these things that I'm doing and want to be doing. This is really inspiring to me. And it doesn't look exactly like what you do, because I don't do photography, and there's different things that are my passions. But
Mhm.
seeing somebody take the steps, right? Even going back to the beginning of this interview, you wanted to go to Japan, you waited 3 years, now you're here, and this season of your journey and you're soaking it up and you're being present and you're teaching an 81-year-old English and little kids English and you're eating the food and you're living in this tiny apartment and you're doing it and you're with it. But it's so important because when people see people taking the steps and doing the things and experimenting and exploring with it, it's, oh, let me open up my eyes to what's also possible for me. Oh, maybe I really want to teach English somewhere. I really want to write poetry. That's been something for me. It's been really nice to see other people write poetry because for whatever reason, like I really want to write poetry. So, not for whatever reason, it's like part of my soul, I guess. So it's just right. It's like seeing these different things. And then what I'm getting at is it plants seeds into somebody else's mind and heart. And then they can start to do it in their own unique ways. And the money will follow, the success will follow. It's just inevitable. What did you say earlier? It just keeps getting better. You said something like that, or life keeps getting better, or
Best days are ahead of us.
best days. Yeah. Yeah. Best days are ahead of us. Right. So if you're constantly pursuing the things that light you up, that genuinely bring you joy, you're doing them, you're letting the success follow, then it's just the ripple effect of giving other people permission to do the same in their own unique ways. But if we're not doing that, if we're holding back, or if you're, say you were still living in California, even though you're like, oh, right now I don't really want to be in California, then Vinny, you would be just more suppressed, not quite happy, kind of like, what's going on here? But there's something that shifts because now you're in Japan, and even though you're still figuring things out and it's not perfect, nothing's perfect, you're writing your book, you're doing the things, and then that energy that you exude now gets to inspire other people. Does this make sense what I'm trying to say? It's like, it's just
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so like you said, you want to write your book, and like you're getting like you're getting lots of signals, right? Like it's telling you. And also you want to write poetry, and like you're getting all these signals, like you don't know why you want to do it, but you feel like you have to.
Oh yeah.
Sense. And so I heard Stephen Pressfield is one of my favorite authors. You read the War of Art?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, should link to it. Like if there's one
Okay.
book that everyone should read, it's that, especially if you
Okay.
want to do anything creative.
Okay.
Just listening to him on Joe Rogan, like currently it's like a few hours, so I'm breaking it up, but one of my favorite authors, he said, like, we all have just we all have a river like of creativity, of life just flowing underneath us. And if we don't kind of listen to those voices, not the voices, but if we don't take those just little hits of like, you should do this, you want to write poetry, you're not doing it, that river will diverge into like suffering, and you'll just be confused. And even though you don't know why you want to do these things, but you're getting signals from the universe telling you have to do it. And if you don't do that, you might end up like the 40-year-old person, like man or woman, who looks back and is like, I never took that chance. Like I was something I wanted to so bad. Like what could my life have been if I just took one small step to pursue that thing? And if you don't, that river, if you do just take a small step, it just flows into the ocean of just, you don't know what it's gonna, got all types of rivers flowing in that ocean, and you know what it's gonna create in there. But
Yeah.
you don't want it to diverge into, frustration, confusion, and just regret. You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know and I do feel the universe, life will keep giving you the signs, and then it just becomes frustrating. So you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write the book. Okay. Like I was
And
starting to get text messages, just random text messages, random numbers being like, hey, you want to write a best-selling novel? Hey, do you want, like, literally,
really,
yes. And I was like, oh yeah, I do. And then I would be in a car. I remember the first time it dropped in, and I had so much resistance to it at this time around. I was driving with a gentleman, not randomly. He was driving me.
found myself in a car with a 40-year-old gentleman.
Honestly, I get myself in the weirdest situation. So, I mean, it was all safe. It was good. I dropped my car off to get service, and he was he was a transport taking me back. And so we're talking, and he asks me, this was, I think, 4 years ago. I was still in Denver. He asks me about my life story. And so I start to share, blah, 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 tell him more about it. And he looks at me and he goes, so I just want to let you know, young man, I don't know what he said, young woman. He's like, I guess he works in a church, and he goes, he might be a pastor or something. I can't remember exactly, but he's like, I am a very religious man. And whatever anyone connects to, but he's like, I really connect to God. God speaks through me. And I don't say this lightly. You need to write a book. And I remember I looked at him and I was like, dang it, I know, but I really don't want to. I had a story, Vinny. I'm such a bad writer. Writing's so hard for me. I don't want to write. Like, I like speaking. I don't want to write. I have to write a whole book. And so, but that was the first time it dropped in. Then I was like, okay, noted. And then since then, it's just been like ping, 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 ping. And I'm like, okay, you're going to sit your booty down. You're going to figure this out. It's going to happen. And so now it's like taking the steps to help. And actually, I'm going to work with a woman who's going to kind of help me out, because I do really well with like bouncing off of somebody else. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, I'm hiring her in January. She's going to help me write this thing. So I'm not in my 40s being like, Shannon, really? But I don't operate that way anyway, but still, yeah, it's the steps.
That is what the War of Art is about. He coins the term resistance, and like it's the thing that makes us do anything but our creative endeavor. So I think you'll love it for sure. But and obviously it's not easy. It's like you have everything else in life going on, and like you can't drop everything. But something that I've just been like writing, during Eras of Youth, I pretty much had the time just to focus everything I had on writing it. Now I'm doing what most writers throughout history have done, and they're writing a book like with a full-time job, and I don't even have kids or anybody else to think about. But like, just the only way to really do it is to take the smallest steps possible and create momentum. Take like, so I'm just pretty like 2 crappy pages a day, as opposed to like trying to make it perfect, which might be tough for perfectionists to do, because like you want to make everything, you want to make it, you think it's going to be, this is the book, like I want to make it incredible. But honestly, all you have to do is start getting it down, like smaller the better, probably. Just like don't try to think about, and this is for anything, like don't just take the pressure off of even having to make it good, even having to make it a book. Like start with the first page, start with 1 line of poetry, first stanza of a song, I don't know, anything, a sketch. And like momentum is more important than just getting it perfect, especially in the beginning. Just getting the ball rolling, and then once you get into the mindset of like, this is something that I do every day, like continuously, just little by little, you just can't imagine what it will snowball into. And then you could always go back and whittle it down, and you should once it's all said and done. But it's like the momentum of actually keeping the thing and like having it present on your mind, something that gives you joy, like to have something that you're focusing on, like a project that's outside of work, that's outside of, there's a lot that takes you outside of life and just gives you something to focus on creatively, that inspires you every day, is a gift. And like, you got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And for anyone else who has something on their mind, take the small step. You're right. Cause it's all small steps, really.
It's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it.
Okie dokie. Well, I've had you on for a while, so we're gonna dive into the final 8 questions, and these just answer instinctually, however you want. The first one, and we did speak to this, but out of curiosity, what is something simple that brings you a lot of joy?
My pen.
Oh,
Yes.
I like that answer. What a creative answer.
I mean, for a writer, it's kind of, but it's true. I've had this pen for a couple of years. It's like, it's a good pen. It's a good pen. It's a bit aged. I mean, I think just part of my whole philosophy of like, I love something that it's been on journeys with me. You could see it on like the first page of Errors of Youth. It's like for the part 1 California. I think it's in the journal. That's the one.
Oh,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Number 2, what is one thing that you love about yourself?
That's an interesting question. I think I care about my friends a lot.
Hmm. Number 3. All right. Well, you've shared some, so share a new one. What is a quote or affirmation that really speaks to your soul and keeps you going?
Mm. That's a good question. There's one that is just for, it's kind of been the philosophy for just creative endeavors and everything. But you accrue incremental wisdom as you implement your flawed plan.
Mm. Hmm. Incremental wisdom. I like it. All right. So these next 2. So they go to the podcast title, Unmasked and Openhearted. First one
Okay.
going to Unmasked. What is a figurative mask that you're actively taking off inside of your life? And what does that look like?
I think for me, just the whole perfect athlete persona of
Mm,
like I have to be in great shape, and like that is a big part of it. Is just if I'm not in great shape, like who am I really? Like
mm,
if I did gain 50 pounds, would I still be Vinny Van Patten? Like
mm,
who, of course, but like I still have that mask of like trying to be perfect in physical
mm,
regard, and I don't think it's the healthiest. It's getting better. So
mm,
that's good. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And going into open-hearted, what helps you open up your heart?
Uh, I thought was it. I was gonna say weed, but can't do that here. That's a California thing.
Mm,
Uh,
you can still say it.
right. Well, I know. I mean, I just did. So I hope that stays.
Yeah.
Smoking weed. I haven't done that in a while, but I was get very emotional.
Mm,
But here, just I mean, crying, talking with
mm,
like have some great cries with Greg, even though we can't be here together. We had some virtual cries just a couple
mm.
weeks ago. Back was not feeling good, and yeah, needed him. Just having a good friend there
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing to have a friend like that that you can really lean on for all sorts of things. It's like,
for sure.
I mean, it can literally save your life. So it's beautiful you have that friendship. And who is a woman who inspires you and why?
Well, my mom,
Mm,
she has kind of been the wise owl, I like to
mm,
say, just in this whole journey. That my dad is definitely the motivator who I, definitely very influenced by and just inspired by, but my mom has always been just my rock of like I go to
mm,
her, I think, when just dealing with troubles.
mm,
And yeah, we've been on a journey together, this whole
mm,
experience of body perfection and
mm,
writing and everything. So yeah.
mm. Amazing. If you could give your younger self some words of wisdom, what would you say to him?
So I guess it'd be like college. Well, just take the pressure off.
Mm,
Something I just tell myself now, but I was probably feeling more of like I had to do certain stuff, and everything seemed much more weighty at the time. And even though I'm doing like more important stuff now, not even important, but like
Mm.
at the time, like everything just felt so important. Like, just deciding what school to go to, friends. I was like so nervous in the high school at like basketball games and stuff, just trying to be perfect. Like, obviously, none of it matters. Like, are you just trying hard? Are you just enjoying life? Take the pressure off. Take the pressure
Mm.
off. It'll all work out.
Mm. I love that. Final question.
Sure.
What are the 2 songs that you are going to add to the Unmasked and Openhearted Spotify playlist?
Oh, I'm excited. Times Like These, Jack Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is one of my all-time favorites. Whole album is great.
Okay. What album is that? I guess I could find
On,
it out.
on and on.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. And Mr. Rager, Kid Cudi.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Any words about either of those songs or just
Yeah.
you?
Jack Johnson. I mean, do you know Jack Johnson?
Yeah, yeah. I've actually seen him in concert.
Really?
Oh,
I
yeah.
have not. Good.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Sounds incredible. Yeah, that just reminds me of being a kid, like young, in Aspen, Colorado, at
Mm,
a skate park with like my brother, like friends, and that album sounds pretty corny, but just that album and like that song just always just brings me peace and just like whatever
mm,
going through. Jack Johnson just makes life so simple.
mm,
Like times like these, times like those, what'll be will be. So
mm,
it goes on and on.
mm,
Just keeps going. So
mm.
enjoy the simple things.
I like it. And what about Mr. Rager?
Mr. Rager, Kid Cudi is just my all-time fave. I remember listening to that album, Man on the Moon 2, in 10th grade history class. Just finished a test. Was like waiting to listen to it. Pop the headphones in. And like that song, Mojo's so dope. Another just I still listen to them like all this music. I have like all my favorite songs on just a old playlist, but just I love just nostalgia, just like remembering old times and
Mm,
stuff that brought me happiness. And Mr. Rager is just like, the lyrics, birds seen flying around. You never see them too long on the ground. You want to be one of them. And just this mentality of like getting out in the world. Kid Cudi just has this kind of otherworldly kind of persona and presence of like man on the moon and celestial bodies and just spiritual aspect to it that I've always
mm,
been really interested in, of just like man, woman, a human being, just like on the journey that maybe people don't understand, but
mm,
music, I'm sure it sounds like you love music, is the thing
mm,
that, even when you're by yourself, you could find so much just wisdom and inspiration to carry on. Like even if you feel
mm,
at your lowest and think nobody else sees you, and I just love like being anywhere in the world and like having those songs
mhm.
to help me carry on. Just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you
Yes.
so much for sharing. Well, I believe that we can be in a relationship with different songs. So you just proved my experience too.
Hmm. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, you like literally you form a relationship with different songs, and those ones have been with you for a while, and then you can keep leaning on them in different elements of your life, or you listen to a song and it brings you back to something, or there's certain songs that pump you up, or certain songs you listen to when you're sad, or even, when you're writing or being creative, and they're just such a gift. I think songs are such a freaking gift. I would not be
Oh,
here if it weren't for music. So,
for sure. 100%.
well, Vinny, thank you so much for just your time and everything that you've shared and just everything you're putting out into the world. Everyone listening, definitely. I listened to Eras of Youth on Audible, but I know if you get the actual book, there's photography in it. So do whatever you prefer. If you want to see the photos, maybe get the actual book, and maybe I'll get the book one day too, but I just knew I'd be able to get through it if I listened to it in time for the interview. So definitely get your book. And I know you write on Medium, and then you do a blog on your website, and you also have a newsletter people can sign up for as well, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, if you any means you can read the book, that whatever you like to do, audio, visual. But yes, I have a newsletter called Citoyen du Monde, which means citizens
Mm,
of the world. And
mm,
it's pretty much just my exploration of being a human being on planet Earth. And it brings together what I'm learning from my travels. So I publish, like, you get it every Friday, and pretty much has like my writing from the week, what I'm reading, some big reader, podcast episode, and just like some travel photography or some music lyrics or something to inspire you. Add a little flavor to the weekend.
yeah, it's a really well-written newsletter. I loved, obviously, the musical lyrics. I was like,
Yes, that's my
ooh,
favorite part. Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I
Yes.
really liked it. I was like, oh, I love that he does musical lyrics. That's great.
Because we don't usually see the videos to like these songs we know so well. And like when I started like
Mm,
seeing the videos are so cool. So I
like that,
include little videos as well.
the actual video, like the music video.
Music video, yeah.
You know what
These
Spotify does?
sweet.
Do you know that do you see like Spotify will add the lyrics so you can see the lyrics?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big fan, big
Yeah.
fan.
Oh, me too.
And I
I
love the
do.
little like animations that they play.
I know. I do
They're
too.
doing great.
They are doing great.
Great work.
I love Spotify. But yeah, I'll do little like karaoke with myself with the lyrics. I really appreciate them putting the
Mm,
lyrics in there.
it's helping us all out.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for just your time, your energy. For everyone, all of Vinny's links will be in the show notes, his website, his Instagram, link to purchase his book, all that good stuff. And if you did enjoy this conversation, if something that Vinny shared inspired you, I encourage you to let him know. Send him a message on Instagram or email him, because it's just really nice. We record this conversation, but then to know people are listening and being inspired in these different ways, or something clicked in a different way, it means a lot. So I encourage you to get connected with him. He loves authentic human connection.
It's true.
So let him know. And we appreciate you listening.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shannon. This was awesome. I think it was almost 3 hours. Wait, no. Almost. Wow. Time just flew by though. That was like, haven't had conversation like that in a long time. So thank you for everything you are doing, as well, for having me on.
Absolutely.
Okay.